Money. Night.
What's up?
Money and night. Is that right?
Greetings, greetings. Welcome. Join us. Thank you, everyone. Check in, check in. Hit the like button. Welcome, welcome. Hop in here, hop in here. What's up, people? Indeed, I am covering this. Let's appreciate this song. It was sent in by a viewer.
Is that right?
This is Retward von Dornberg. I believe he's German. Or something. Maybe, yeah, Berlin, Germany. Welcome, everyone. Glad you guys have been enjoying it. Welcome back, Bob. Good to have you here. Blue Unicorn. High five, everyone. Welcome back, Walk, Hike, Explore. Good to see you again. Yeah, you welcome back, Blue Unicorn. This song, I'll post a link for you guys. There's the artist if you guys want to check it out. Yes, I feel your fatigue, Rick. But we can't give up. Oh, my pleasure, Dominier.
Is that right?
All right, give it up to Retward. He's the artist behind that masterpiece you just heard. Welcome back, Sandy. Good to have you here again. If you could, yes, please hit the like button. That would be sincerely appreciated. Welcome back, Pariah. There will probably be a punch and pie served here today. This chat box is driving me insane. There we go. That's better. All right. Is this when I usually stream? Yes, it is. This is the typical time frame from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. Tried to put it in the middle for everyone. So yeah, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, we're here. We are here. And today, well, like every other day that we stream, we're going to be talking about some police interactions. Your biggest, CJ says, my biggest problem with that interaction is it's not like we don't know cops use their patrol cars for speed for less important reasons. That's a fair critique. And to be honest, I have not watched the video that we're going to, I haven't seen the full video. I've only seen the minor clips that have been circulating around social media, but I did track down what appears to be the full dash cam footage. But I mean, I'm only saying that because it's 20 minutes long, and all the clips I've seen were about 2 minutes long today. But based on the clips, I also have some thoughts. Took some notes down after watching the clips that popped up, and that's what I'll be going over with you. Kind of my initial thoughts and some things to consider about this interaction in particular. Clips don't paint the full picture, says Big Boy. Well, that's what we're going to find out today, is whether or not they do. Because it's mind-boggling to me how fast police interactions go viral nowadays. And I'm not necessarily saying from the time they happen to the time that footage is actually released, because we all know sometimes it takes literal years for them to release any meaningful footage. But I mean, from the point that it is released to it being brought to national attention, that's a much smaller time frame nowadays, especially from when I first started doing this. It used to be a lot more difficult to get bad police interactions in mainstream media, but now it seems like it has totally reversed. Have I seen the video where Justin Freeman in Stevens County, Georgia? If you haven't, who's Justin Freeman? I've never heard of that person. What's up, One Man in Japan? Back in the States for a month, so you can actually watch these. Nice. Glad to have you back. All right, so I've got quite a few police interactions, but we're going to largely be focusing on the one that the thumbnail and title are built around. So, for those of you who don't know, in Arkansas, there was a lady arrested for not obeying the traffic laws as she was rushing to get her dog, who was in the middle of a medical emergency, to the vet. We will look at that's what I was thinking, Pariah. We will look at an article that talks about it, but like I said, I also kind of tracked down the full dash cam footage, so that's what we're going to start with. Then we'll check out the article, and then I'll walk you through my thoughts on what's going on. So let's hop over here to this view. And just before we even get started, ladies and gentlemen, I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. Don't be a dumbass. I'm just some fucking idiot on the internet with a microphone in his face. All right? Just like everyone else on YouTube. So, yeah, take it for what it's worth. Oh, let's see. If you guys are talking about the perfume one, not only did I cover it a couple of streams ago, but I posted a whole dedicated video to it. So if you want to check that out, go to the YouTube, go to my page down here and look at it. Yep, I'm not an attorney. Shocker. So again, this is the full body camera or full dash camera footage, because most of the time state troopers and state police officers don't have body cameras for whatever reason. The reasoning they say is because they only ever deal with traffic interactions. Basically, like highway patrol and state troopers, they're largely the main focus of their enforcement is traffic. So that's why most of them don't have a body camera. But honestly, I don't think that's not a good excuse for a law enforcement agency not to have a body camera. There's so many things that happen that just you cannot see on a dash cam, regardless of whether or not it's a traffic stop. Welcome back, Rojas. Glad to have you here. Why did I stop doing the double features? Because honestly, people did not like it. It seemed like it wasn't being received well, and it was just burning extra content for no real reason. So also didn't have any meaningful effect on any performance analytics or even sharing the second story. It was almost like we were putting a story on the back burner so that another story could thrive, you know. So I just didn't feel like it was a good idea to keep doing that. I'm so sick of this chat box. Okay, let's get into it. Shout out to... Where'd the audio go? What the heck? Okay, I'm guessing there's no audio here. Shout out to LRHN Cash for uploading this video. In case you're wondering, the officer, the Arkansas State Patrol officer's name is Holly Romero. Okay, so first of all, we just witnessed what prompted this entire thing. So in case you missed that, this officer has a green light to turn left, which means that whatever traffic is in this lane cannot go straight. So then we have this blue car here, which I'm assuming, obviously from the thumbnail, is the individual that's going to be involved in this police interaction. So pay attention, I guess. Don't miss this part. This is like what started everything. Darren Lance says, brother, man, I love your voice. Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate the $2, man. That means a lot. A lot of people talk all the time about me coming back to narrate the episodes. And honestly, if ATA continues on the path that it is now, that very well could be a possibility. An inevitability, if you will. But anyway, so we just saw this lady run a red light with her flashers on. Cop caught the cop's attention. There we go. Now we got some audio. Oh, okay. Hold on now. This is kind of important. Because, see, there's a lot of... The thing about it is that... Is there a problem with my narration? I mean, not really, but, you know, we've just had the voice of the channel for so long. Let's not get sidetracked. We'll talk about all this stuff after we explore this police interaction. But something important just... Am I pirate softwaring my voice? I don't think that would be a good... If I made my voice any deeper than it is now, it'd sound like a troll. Oh, is there a problem with my current narrator? No, there's not a problem. It's just, it costs money, and the channel's not making money. So that's the problem. But anyway, please, let's focus. All right, so the problem with the way that this interaction has been distributed on the internet is that it is largely been taken out of, you know, there's like 2-minute clips, you know, like what I saw. My exposure to this was just clips, you know, that's it. I didn't have the full story. So we have this, now we have the full dash cam. We can kind of see from the officer's perspective what may have prompted this whole thing. And Grant, look, I'm not trying to defend them. I mean, I don't know what happened yet. But we do need to watch this part because it's shows something pretty interesting. All right, did you see that? This driver went around here.
Oh, hell no.
Granted, this is a passing zone. That's what these, I'm sure you all know that's what these stripes are. But this person had to exit the roadway. Clearly had to exit the roadway to allow her to pass through. So just something to keep in mind for later. All right. She did basically run this guy off the road. Let's go back and watch it in real time again.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, he had to leave. He had to get out of her way. Now let me ask you this. Why didn't she do this? What the cops doing now? Why wouldn't you do that? My voice on helium. But yeah, she had this entire shoulder. She could have went around this way. Just saying.
Oh, hell no.
Alright, so now we've officially, it's 1 minute and 27 seconds in. 12:48:20 is the timestamp where she basically initiates this stop. So I don't know if you saw that. It went away as soon as I paused it, but the speed they were traveling at was around 66 miles per hour. I don't know what road this is. Obviously, we don't have that information, but I will say that this is not a high speed chase. But the question really is, what's the speed limit on this road? It's a 35. She's doing 66 and a 35 is what Colton says. So if that's the case, then this is very reckless driving. Wait, we got it right here. Speed limit is 40, not 35. And you see right here, we're going almost 70 now. So she's well into reckless driving territory for this whole interaction.
Is a vehicle is currently trying to go on the road. It appeared to begin to start at 10:37. I'm just now leaving Hope. The plate is Arkansas 122. Zebra Charles Zebra 122 ZCC. It's a blue car.
Was it 35 before? Okay. Look, I'm no traffic expert, but since we're having this discussion, you generally, my understanding is that you can pass if you have a divided line on your side. The other side that has the solid line, the traffic going in the opposite direction here, would not have the ability to pass. But someone with this line on their side does. That's been my understanding, but again, I'm not a traffic expert, so just this is my 2 cents since you guys are talking about it. This has slowed down quite a bit. I don't know if you saw that, but it's now flashing 50. This truck is really making it a problem for her to pass.
Alright, they just pulled off into the veterinary clinic.
I don't give a shit. Here, I gotta get my dog. No, ma'am. He's about to die. I don't care. She can bring your damn dog. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
You're
Okay. Now, yeah, I noticed that too, Electric. It looked like she was real close to pit maneuvering her before she decided to pull into the vet's office. Now, regardless of the situation, okay, and granted, I understand that this lady is undergoing a high degree of emotional stress at the moment. But telling cops, no, don't touch me, especially when they're, I mean, the cop did not know anything about the dog, obviously. So just turning your flashers on and driving around like crazy is more than enough evidence for them to pull you over. So this was certainly a justified stop, in my opinion. I'm going to throw this back up here for you guys. I don't, obviously, she committed many traffic infractions as she was being pursued by this officer. So there's no defending this stop. This was a lawful stop. Again, remember when we were talking about the McNeil case, we were saying that, you know, the objective reasonableness standard is viewed from the officer's perspective at the time. Of course, this cop had no idea that this lady's dog was in the middle of a medical event. And so, completely justified stop. We'll talk about whether or not the dog actually plays any role in this interaction here in a moment. But it is important to point out that this was certainly a legitimate traffic stop, in my opinion. Now, when the officer approached the woman, and we'll replay this so that we can get a good idea of what happened. Let's just replay it again.
I don't give a shit. Here, I gotta get my dog. No, ma'am. He's about to die. I don't care. She can bring your damn dog. Don't touch me. Don't.
This is straight up resistance. You know, I didn't pull up the Arkansas resistance law or obstruction law or whatever it may be that would apply here, but you cannot physically resist an officer engaged in a lawful duty. And that's what's happening here. She's resisting lawful orders. And this officer, Officer Romero, has all the authority in the world to detain her right now and control her movement. And just speaking from a practical perspective, what the fuck is this lady even going to do? Like, what could she possibly do beyond this now? She's got her dog to the vet. This is as far as she can take it. It's not like she's about to go back there in the OR and perform an operation on her own dog. So I don't know what the justification would be for fighting the officer here. I mean, clearly this is the time where you get out and you explain what's happening and you cooperate and comply, while whoever you were with that actually had the dog in their possession gets out and takes care of the problem. But you, as just some random person, I mean, if you could do something about it, what's the point of even bringing them to the vet? So I think so far, everything that we're looking at, especially from the officer's perspective, has been totally valid and justified. Now, is it professional? Is another question. When she told the officer, "I gotta go, my dog's dying," which is obviously meant to, you know, hey, have some compassion for me right now. I'm freaking out. The cop was like, "I don't give a shit." And there's two perspectives that are equally valid here, in my opinion. One, you know, when you're in the middle of a medical emergency like that, I mean, people care about their dogs like they do their kids. So I imagine it could evoke that same degree of emotional response. She was freaking out, not in her right mind, not knowing, you know, what was going on. But also from literally everyone else in society's perspective, not just the officer, she just put a lot of people in danger for her dog. I mean, she could have killed that guy she ran off the road. She straight ran that dude off the road. She made she ran a red light as people were about to drive through it. The cop almost hit her. So I don't know. I lean on the side that if it came down to endangering the lives of people or endangering the lives of an animal, I would prefer it to be the animal. Maybe I'm just some humanistic, you know, loser for that perspective, but I just don't see this being a dying dog being a legitimate excuse for putting other people's lives in danger. She told officer her animal duress. Officer should have looked. As a cop, I would have. She's not acting irrational. I think she kind of was acting irrational by refusing to submit to this lawful traffic stop. The woman is acting as though the dog is her child. Cops let the other lady carry the dog in. She had her flashers on. That means emergency. Cops drive just as bad. Yeah, well, turning on your emergency lights doesn't give you a license to break all the traffic laws. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, but let's just see what happens here.
Touch me! You're under arrest. Touch me! My dog's dying! This is at the wrong vet. We got it the wrong You're gonna cut off traffic because your dog is dying? Are you kidding me? I had my flashers on. Mama, get him to the vet. Get him to the vet. Go to the other vet. I don't care if you had your flashers on.
I believe that this vet is actually closed. What day of the week was the 14th on? My calendar won't pull up for whatever reason. Anyway, it looks like the vet here is actually closed, and she's saying take her to another vet. That's why this other lady hasn't gone inside here yet. I think that might be what's happening.
And the vehicle off the road, you're going into traffic. Wait!
Wait, let me sit up! Oh, bye, whatever you need, but let me sit up! I will sit down and do whatever you say!
Sit up!
Wait, I can't get up! I killed him!
G12 Hope.
I killed him!
Get in.
Okay, I will.
Get in now!
No, I'm just telling you I will do whatever
I don't give a shit what you're telling me. Get in!
You don't have to explain to the cops that you're going to comply. Just comply. You don't have to explain that you're going to do that. And it's only going to cause problems.
G12 Hope, I have one in custody, one female. Ma'am, listen, you can bring your dog in there. They're closed. Okay. Where's her driver's license?
They are closed.
I don't know. I'll get it to you, though.
What's her name, ma'am? April Robinson. Okay, come on.
Okay, sorry guys. I was lagging really bad there. I had to mute for a second just to make sure everything was going on. Was working. I got hit with a big chunk of lag in that moment. Sorry about that. So, that's probably from the YouTube gods fucking me over. You guys remember what they did to me last time. But I don't, what the, oh yeah. The only reason I paused was for the lag. Sorry. Fuck. See this? Alright, this lag is getting crazy. Sorry, bear with me. I'm having a giant RAM dump for whatever reason. I'll just swap over to this for a second. What is happening? Jeez. I'm using 86 gigs of RAM right now. I don't even know how. This is literally insane. Leave. What is using all this RAM? Okay, I think we're good now. Maybe? That was kind of brutal. Wow. Is everything okay? Can you guys hear me? Am I lagging still? I sound and look fine. We're good now? We're good now. Thank God. I don't know what this RAM usage is. I'm still using 98 gigs of RAM right now for whatever reason. I'm sure you guys can hear that fan going too. You're lagging on or offline. All right, I'm gonna try to continue this. I really wish I could figure out what the hell is causing this. The task manager is telling me that nothing is using the RAM. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that. Okay, let me try to play this and see if it's gonna work.
Ma'am, you're lucky you didn't get TBI'd off the road.
Okay. I think we're
Because that's
good.
the next stage I was going toward.
He had a heartbeat.
I
Is
understand
it
your
the chat
dog
capture?
is in bad shape, ma'am. But do you understand you ran a light, you went into oncoming traffic and cut off the vehicle. You could have killed somebody.
That's right.
CFS comments added.
Why isn't she going?
You're going to jail today.
No, I'm talking about my mom.
See, the thing is like, you know, this car right now could certainly be, well, it is. It's being seized in the moment, but they could definitely tow it if they wanted to. Just saying that she doesn't really have an entitlement to this car at the moment. My God, how does this RAM just keep going? So that's probably why her mom. It's not my wall. I don't even have a wallpaper. This is why her mom cannot just leave with the vehicle.
April, your address is it 2312 Rocky Mound Road?
Yes.
Okay.
going to 2x this a little bit because there's nothing going on right now. Using the Argus monitor. That's where I'm getting that figure. God, there's a lot of nothing. I see why this video has been clipped. Well, here's the thing. All right, someone just asked, how many people here would go to jail for their dog? The thing about it is like you're not actually going to jail for your dog. The reason you're going to jail is because you disobeyed the traffic laws and you put other people's lives in danger. So I guess the real question is, how many people would put society at large in danger for their dog? That's the better question, because going to jail is really secondary to what the actual problem is here. You know, most people would probably go to jail for their dog, but would everyone put everyone else's lives at risk for their dog? That's the bigger question. Yeah, that's right, Colton. To put it in simple terms, the real question is the value of an animal's life versus the risk to society at large.
I heard eastbound on 6, Tennessee, Ward, Sam, Ziegler, 152. Ward, Sam, Ziegler, 152. We're in the Honda Ward.
You fine with your mom driving your vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
She's lucky she didn't get TBI'd. So her dog is apparently dying, and she decided that she was gonna blow through a light with her blinkers on, or her hazards on, and then she went, yes, in town, and then she went around a vehicle with oncoming traffic, cutting them off like she was running. So, I mean, and the mom took it inside. She's lucky she didn't hurt somebody.
All right, so I guess now is the point where we can start talking about a potential defense for this woman. But first, let's look at this article and see if there's anything we can glean from this that wasn't necessarily captured in the video. So, This is just setting it up. Of course, she got into the traffic stop. We all know what exactly happened. And this article is a little bit, it characterizes this event a little bit with somewhat of an anti-police rhetoric, is what I'll say. So that just describes what happens. And then this is talking about how this clip was shared online, and this is the clip that I initially saw, and it begins when they pull into this place. So you, as a random consumer of this content, you don't get the whole context of her running that guy off the road, running through the red light, driving well over the speed limit. You don't get all that context. So it's good. They actually did post a link to the longer video here, so at least there's that. And then it just goes through the reactions. There wasn't really much here, and this was the most thorough article I could find. And it doesn't give you any information beyond what you can glean from the full video, but at least they did take the trouble of linking the full coverage. Now, I took some notes here. I'm gonna have to bring this back up though, because I had to close that window. Let's see. All right. I took some notes about this because I had some initial thoughts and some ideas that came to my mind when I was watching this video that I think, would be relevant to discuss here. So there's this thing in the law. Let me go to here. There's a concept in law that, a defense in common law that is very rarely invoked, but and is even more rarely successful. But it really kind of comes into play with an interaction like this. And if this had been a person dying, may have been a different story about how this was interpreted, especially for the courts. And you're right. Thank you, Roge Ice. So this is called the necessity defense, okay? And it's also sometimes referred to as the choice of evils defense. And essentially what it means is that, you were in a situation where you had no choice, where the objective right and moral and safe thing to do was what you did, but what you did happens to be illegal. So in this case with the lady, she's breaking all these traffic laws, and her excuse is, well, my dog is dying. So this sort of relevant to this. And again, though, this is an extremely rare defense that is almost never successful. But before we get into that, I wrote the notes down. Here are the core elements of what the necessity defense generally requires. Granted, it's different state to state, but this is the most commonly accepted. This is what's in the common law interpretation of the elements of the necessity defense. So imminent threat is one, and it basically, was there a threat or any significant danger? And it can't be like something that's like purely speculative or something that's been going on for a long time. It needs to be a relatively immediate threat. So, and some examples I wrote down were, think of like a house fire, a heart attack, or maybe a building collapsing. Those are the types of situations where you may be able to invoke this defense in order to do something that might have been illegal otherwise. The second prong is that there are no already legal alternatives. So, for example, this woman was trying to get to the vet quickly. There's no legal alternative for you to break the traffic laws that would have facilitated her getting to the veterinarian faster. So maybe she has some ground to stand on with that prong. But to further explain it, it basically means that the person had no legal or practical way to avoid the danger other than breaking the law. That's the way I'm quantifying it here anyway. So then we have the third prong, which is proportionality. And this is what I had to say about it, or the way I would describe it is the harm caused by breaking the law must be less than the harm that is being avoided. Now, this is a pretty big hurdle for her to get over, because it just goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about what is more valuable to society, the safety of people on the road or this woman's dying dog. Obviously, she's going to have some trouble making a convincing case for that to any reasonable person. And then the fourth prong is no contribution, basically meaning that you didn't contribute to the situation that caused you to feel as though you needed to act outside the bounds of the law. You didn't put yourself in the immediate danger. You weren't the cause of the immediate danger. Otherwise, this whole defense is pretty pointless, right? So it's a like I said, it varies state by state. This is largely a common law concept, but Arkansas actually does have a statute that specifically outlines the choice of evils doctrine. And we can just look at this here. So conduct that would otherwise constitute an offense is justifiable when the conduct is necessary as an emergency measure to avoid an imminent public or private injury. And according to ordinary standards of reasonableness, the desirability and urgency of avoiding the imminent public or private injury outweigh the injury sought to be prevented by the law prescribing the conduct. Basically the same prong that we discussed before about proportionality. The justification under this section shall not rest upon a consideration pertaining to the morality or advisability of the statute being defined, basically of the offense. So morality is not going to play a factor in determining whether you're objectively entitled to a choice of evils defense. So saying, well, my dog is like my child to me is not going to be a legitimate way to invoke this defense. And then if the actor is reckless or negligent in bringing about the situation. So essentially, if you cause the situation, like the contribution clause we mentioned earlier, if you cause the situation, you cannot use this defense. And from what I understand, from what I was able to glean anyway, Arkansas is no exception to how difficult it could be to invoke a defense like this. It's just gonna be hard. And I just don't see many people agreeing with the idea that other people should be put in danger for the sake of your dog's life, even if that danger is negligible, which is entirely subjective. The amount of danger she posed on the road that day was some amount. Now, what amount of danger to the public are we going to allow for one person's dog? That doesn't make any sense, and we should not be allowing that. So, I mean, you guys tell me what you think. Do you think that we should be allowing people to do whatever they want when it comes to their dog? Is this the type of behavior that we're prepared to accept as a society in the event that someone's dog is dying? I mean, what degree of danger would a dog have to be in to justify any amount of danger to a person? Everyone's saying no. I doubt the majority would agree with that. They can speed to take their dying dog to the vet. Yes, they can. Yeah, no, I don't think they can. I actually don't think that they can. I don't think that that's lawful, and I'm pretty sure that her arrest is probably going to be found lawful. I just can't see any dog's life being worth putting anyone else in danger for. I mean, we could take this broad philosophical perspective that every living creature's life is equally important, but that's kind of irrelevant to the system of laws that we've set up to protect our society. We do have laws to protect animals from us, but we are not, like, our main priority with the legal system is not to protect animals. It's to protect people and each other. And if that happens to conflict with an animal's livelihood, generally we will always defer to the solution that preserves human life. And I guarantee you that if dogs were running the world, that's how they would feel about dogs too. We are the species that has developed the intellectual capacity to do these types of things and regulate ourselves and the worlds around us. And so I think we've earned that right to say that through our system of laws, we value ourselves greater than we do any other animal. Taylor Maid says, unless it's a police dog. Fair. That's a fair point. Because I guarantee you that if this had been a canine unit, that they would have been doing the same thing. They would have had their lights and sirens on, rushing to the vet, totally ignoring all the traffic laws. That dog would have been treated like a person. So I think that that's a fair critique, no doubt. Thomas Taylor says, if we've earned that right is debatable. Fair. Well, yeah, I should rephrase that. We may not have necessarily earned that right, but we're the only ones with the power to exercise it. So unless someone else is going to stop us from, valuing our legal system, then this is just going to be how it is. Not all dogs have equal value, apparently, too. Well, that's legitimately true. To humans, objectively true. To humans, not all dogs do have value. Like your dog doesn't have any value to me. And someone who's hunting, like a hunting dog, might have objective value, where it is worth a certain amount of money just because of its ability to do things. So all dogs are going to have both different subjective and objective value for sure. But none of them are going to supersede the value of a human life. Thomas Taylor says, pets are property. That's exactly right. Pets are property. And that's how it is. So I think she went too far, especially making the truck have to dodge there. Yeah, that was totally uncalled for. And not only was it uncalled for and just kind of silly, but totally illegal, but she had she could have went around the other way and done it in a less safe manner. And I think this adds to the credibility of why she was stopped in the first place, because she was obviously not making rational decisions, even in the irrational decision to drive her dog to the vet so quickly. The way she drove and stuff, it was clear that she was not thinking in her right mind. And so she needed to be stopped. Because imagine this. Imagine that the trooper never caught up with her. That interaction never happened. So then she pulls up to the vet, discovers that it's closed. What do you think she's going to do there? She's going to haul ass to the next vet and just put more people in danger in a manic state. So I just don't. I think this was the best thing that could have happened in this situation. Beyond her, her arriving at a vet that was actually open, That would have been nice. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I believe she should have been stopped. And you know, the stop itself definitely should happen. She's the one who kind of made all the other stuff happen by refusing to obey the officer's orders once she was detained in a lawful traffic stop. So it's hard. Like, I have no critiques on behalf of what the officer literally did and their authority to do it. Of course, I do think it was unprofessional to just say, I don't give a shit about your dying dog. I mean, unprofessional, okay, that's one thing. But, you know, constitutional violations, I didn't see any. And it appeared that pretty much every aspect of that stop was lawful. John, I haven't seen you address this and want your take. Shouldn't the law enforcement officer have given directives before hands-on? I believe that the law enforcement officer did give directives before she went hands-on, but we can go back. Let's go back and see like what exactly was said there.
All right, they just pulled off into the veterinary
Hey, what the hell are you doing? I gotta get my dog to the vet. I don't give a shit. Here, I gotta get my dog to the vet. No, ma'am. He's about to die. I don't care. She can bring you.
Yeah, no directives were given prior to that. That's interesting. She just said, "What are you doing?" And told her she didn't give a shit about her dog dying. And then she went hands-on. But again, let me just say this. There was a cop behind her with her lights and sirens on, following her the whole way. All right, so she knew that she was subject to a traffic stop. There's no denying that when you see lights and sirens and a cop follows you to exactly where you're going. I don't think that the cop needed to, the officer here did not need to announce that she was being detained. That clearly, when you're involved in a traffic stop, you are detained. So why did neither lady in the car call into dispatch to tell them? That's a great point. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that would have been, again, like I said, this lady was clearly not in her right state of mind. You know, obviously, if you're gonna speed for an emergency, especially once you get a cop behind you, at least make an effort to contact someone to let them know what's going on. I mean, let me just say this. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation and you have a loved one or a legitimate medical emergency that would allow you to temporarily break the traffic laws, you calling 911 in the middle of that is probably a good idea, you know, just to let them know what's going on and where you are, what's happening. And obviously it could even speed up the response time. Instead of you having to drive all the way to the hospital, they could very well just come to you, meet you halfway. So there's also practical implications to doing that as well. But that's a really good point, Electric. If she had just called 911, maybe this would have been a little different. But this officer got out of her patrol car not knowing why this woman was speeding. So her reaction to saying, "What the hell are you doing?" is, I think, a valid question to ask. And obviously, as I said before, she was already detained when the lights and sirens came on. You know, there was no need to enunciate that detention. Julian says, yeah, and even if they didn't get an escort, at least the trooper would have been aware of why it was happening. Exactly. Have you ever tried making a phone call while giving a dog CPR? Well, first of all, she wasn't giving the dog CPR. She was driving her car like a maniac. That's what she was doing. And there were two people in the vehicle. One of those two people could have made the call. So I don't think that's a legitimate excuse. Price says you need to stop immediately. I've seen cops escort people in emergencies. There are decent ones out there who do that. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Pry, because we have this video. which I happen to find throughout the course of looking at different clips of the other video.
Help me, please help me.
What do you need? What do you need?
My cat is about to die. I need to get to the hospital. Can you
Which hospital?
please?
Which hospital?
I don't know. Give me where I'm supposed to, please.
Let me see where the closest one is. We're right on top over there. Leave your keys, I'll park it for you. Leave your keys, I'll park it for you, okay?
Now, that seems like not only a fucking badass officer, like good on him, that was awesome, but also that is what, you know, a practical way to handle a pet emergency. She saw the cop, and instead of running away, she asked for his help, which I get it that, you know, this woman wanted to get to the vet quickly, and their time was a factor here in her mind. But I still think it would have been totally reasonable to stop at least momentarily and be like, hey, officer, I'm having a medical emergency with my dog. Could you potentially give me an escort or something? You know, I need to get there safely and quickly. Maybe she would have even taken the dog herself. You know, but the point is, you know, that this could have definitely went a different direction. And I think that the lady who was involved, this woman, could have made more responsible decisions about how she treated this emergency. So it's not the cop's fault that her dog passed away. And I can't, you know, largely I just blame her for making bad decisions when it comes to how to handle an emergency. Oh, all right. Tell me what you guys got to say about it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. She failed all around, says AJ. James says, unfortunately, a lot of us don't see help when we see the police. That's fair. And I'm not saying that this woman saw help when she saw the police. And honestly, that's not what she should have seen. That shouldn't be the first idea. The first thing that should have come to her mind when she saw that cop behind her was, oh man, what am I doing wrong? Because obviously she was doing something wrong. She was clearly violating a shitload of different traffic laws and putting a lot of people in danger for her dog. Price says, random question, how did she kill the dog? She said, I killed him over and over in the back seat. I didn't hear that. Yeah, we don't, that's another thing too, is like, you know, I was talking about one of the prongs of the fucking shit I was talking about, the necessity defense, sorry, is that you can't have created the conditions of the emergency that you are then trying to escape. So what if she's the reason her dog is dying? You know, what if something happened and you know, that's what created the dog emergency? I feel like she would be in even less of a position to use probably the only defense that would make sense in this situation. AJ says her only duty was to stop and attempt to communicate with the officer. I agree. That was her only duty at the time. And Jimmy says, it is the cop's fault. I fail to see how that's the case, Jimmy. I'd love to see you elaborate on that perspective. It's not the cop's fault that this lady decided to violate a bunch of traffic laws to save her dog. You know, that's not the cop's fault. The cop, especially because the cop did not know that at the time. According to the cop, they saw someone driving like crazy and then went and tried to stop them from doing that. So the dog living or dying has nothing to do with the legality from the officer's perspective. I bet that truck was trying to help the police by staying in his lane and not moving. Who knows? But he did get out of the way. I mean, it's not like he crashed his car. He pulled all the way off the road to avoid crashing into that woman. So I don't know if he saw that as being helpful. He may not have even seen the cop at that point because she was quite a bit behind. Brian says, I'm assuming she meant she killed him because she drove recklessly enough to get pulled over and delayed, but there could have been more to it. Yeah, that's a reasonable implication to draw from what we just saw. But again, like you said, we don't know what happened before this, so it could have been her fault she was even driving like that. Electric says, sure, the cop could have handled the situation after they stopped, but I don't think the cop did anything wrong. Yeah, I agree. I don't like the language that she used. She was a bit of an asshole about it, but nothing illegal about that. I don't mind the cops being a little bit of an asshole every now and then. Everyone has shitty asshole days, so it makes sense. No, she explains in the video something about a cat getting inside the house and her dog doing something. Oh, she explains that at some point? Does she say anything at the end of this?
All right, ma'am. Here's the keys for you, okay? All right, we're going to be over there, okay? All right, thank you. Thank you all. You too.
Oh, we might have missed that.
Anything else you can think of or that I need to do? I may need some instruction on the felony paperwork, but I don't think so. Maybe not. I don't know. The felony paperwork, maybe? Okay. All right. Well, I greatly appreciate it.
So I think somebody's here now. Shout out to this vet's office for getting somebody here to help. That's pretty cool.
I'll give her these and I'll take her on in. Thank you.
Here she goes to give her the keys. She's coming back
I have
out.
her pulled up in Atlas, but all right. Thank you.
Yeah, we just have to dig through the video to be able to find that part. But again, the necessity defense, I think, is going to be her only legitimate option for a defense here, and I just don't see that being successful. But an interesting encounter nonetheless, and it goes to show, I think if nothing else, this encounter is a testament to the notion that you should not judge police interactions from a 2-minute clip posted to fucking TikTok or whatever. We need context, okay? And it's easy to take that one clip of her getting actually stopped and say, wow, what an asshole that cop was being. But then when you see that what actually, preempted that stop, kind of puts things into perspective. That, I kind of feel like that lady needed to hear, hey, what the hell are you doing? Because it seemed like she was under the impression that what she was doing was just fine the entire time she was doing it, and even afterwards. So somebody needed to tell her, hey, you can't put other people's lives at risk for your dog. And you shouldn't. That's just crazy. The golden, yes, innocent. The officer is innocent. I think that's the first time we've given an innocent ruling for the cop. Julian says, John, does giving the keys to your car to a cop for them to park it in an emergency, does that give them probable cause to search? No. You have to be explicit about your consent to search. And you can even give partial consent to search. You can say, you have consent to search my glove box, or you have consent to search my trunk, but not the rest of my car. You can, just giving consent is not, if you just say, hey, you have consent to search, they're going to take the search as far as they can. But you can be a little specific about your search if you do decide to give consent, which there's probably never a situation where that's a good idea, but just saying that is an option. Not only can you give partial consent, but you can revoke your consent as well. So again, factors of consent to keep in mind. Appy says, all cops are heartless would be the saying. I completely disagree with that. I don't think that all cops are heartless. I think that there is a problem in the culture of policing that is certainly leading to a less empathetic and caring police force. But to say that all cops are just blanket morally corrupt is not true. Oh, I missed the discussion. Okay. Sorry for tuning in on that at the wrong time. What's up, Direct D? Good to have you here, Chris. My brother. All right. Some states have laws regarding searches, like a cop can search the car with probable cause, but cannot open anything like a glove box or purse or container, etc., unless they find something during the first search. Yeah, I do. I believe that is true, that there are certain states that have statutory restrictions on what cops are and aren't allowed to search in the course of specific types of searches. But again, even in states with laws that are going to mandate this or that, never ever give your consent to get to a search in any capacity. All right, guys, let's move on. We've put down that one. We put it to rest. The lady, sorry your dog died. Sorry that happened to you. But I guess now you've learned that you shouldn't put other people's lives in danger for an animal. Yeah, that's going to have to be a big fat guilty ruling for the lady. The meth raccoon, we will cover that eventually. That's a really funny video. All right, I got another one queued up for us here. And just to let you know, the reason BP Castle's in that search bar is because he's the one who featured this interaction originally. He has coverage of it, but we're going to watch the unedited body camera footage of this interaction. So TaylorMade says, in my opinion, there are heartless people in the world. Those people who are heartless seek out positions of authority. Morally and ethically corrupt individuals are in every field, some more obnoxious than others. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that in every field, there are positions of power. So, is the distribution of narcissistic cops a statement of cops and cop culture, or is it a statement about humanity and what it does to people, or what power does to people? Both interesting questions, I think. All right, let's hop into this one. Taylorsville, Utah police officer Spencer Stone assaults a citizen for his bad driving. It says that he pulled in to get info off a cop for a complaint. In his mind, that's illegal, to follow a cop into a parking lot to ask questions. Okay. I'm assuming he's meaning I wasn't even looking at him when he struck me. You'll notice he speeds after to on the way to the jail. Can someone point to his PC or reasonable suspicion at the moment he hit me, because I can't find any? Okay. Well, so the question posed here, can someone point to this cop's probable cause or reasonable suspicion at the moment he hit me? So let's bear that in mind as we're watching this.
Can I help you? What? Can I help you? No? Can I help you? Yeah. You was swerving back in your vehicle. Dude, get your fucking hands off me, dude. What's wrong?
Well, that was fast. Let's break this down a little bit. I mean, I didn't expect the use of force to be this early in the video. So let's go back. We need to examine this again. So cop pulls into a parking lot. This guy's pulling up. Okay. I think this is important to notice. The cop is flashing his flashlight at this guy as if like, hey, pull over. So this guy was told to stop. He was told to stop.
Can I help you? What? Can I help you? No? Can I help you? Yeah. You was
him getting out. Obviously, this is, in my opinion, this is not a traffic stop. This is not a Terry stop. Well, maybe it is a Terry stop because of the flashlight. Because, okay, let me just go back and explain a concept to you guys. There's this thing called the Miller test. And it's basically the common law test for determining whether or not someone has been detained by the police. And essentially, the idea is that anytime a person would feel like their movement is restricted in some way by the actions of a police officer, that is considered an effectuation of a detainment. So by flashing that flashlight and essentially telling him, hey, stop, it seems to me like there's an argument to be made that he initiated a detention there.
Can I help you?
So, because like that flashing light,
Can I help?
and again, we can't see what he's doing with his other hand, but he may be doing a gesture like this of some sort. That could be seen as a show of force, a show of authority, to make this guy stop. So it's questionable whether or not we're actually in Terry stop territory right now. But I think that there's a strong argument to be made that there certainly was. Watch his shadow. Okay, let's see his shadow. Well, he's got the flashlight in his right hand, and you can't see what he's doing with his left hand here. So he could very well be waving him down with that left hand. And it looks like he brings it down. So, again, I think this might be a Terry stop.
Can I help you?
Darren, thank you for the $2, brother. This happened in my state, and it was straight bullshit. Okay, well, we're about to find out.
What? Can I help you? No? Can I help you? Yeah. You was swerving back in your vehicle. Dude.
Okay. I don't, again, if we're considering this a legitimate Terry stop, then the officer is going to have some degree of control over this individual's movement. If he is indeed effectuating a Terry stop. But here's the thing, in order for this cop to be able to effectuate this Terry stop, he's got to have some reason to do it. Yeah, some statutory violation or some degree of facts that would lead him to believe that this guy is committing a crime. You can't just pull him over just because he wants to or just because he's doing something weird. All right? Direct D says, yeah, but if he's on private property, then any excuse for a traffic violation is going to be shaky. Yeah, I don't think this is a traffic stop. Now, let me be clear about that. Not a traffic stop, a Terry stop, which traffic stops are Terry stops, but we can remove the traffic element of this and just call it a Terry stop. Let's imagine the cars weren't even a factor, because obviously this interaction was not, well, so far for what we know, I don't think that any traffic infraction was the reason for this stop. It seems like he was doing something beyond that caused this cop to pull over. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be any legitimate, like there's not going to be a traffic infraction that can be used to justify this stop. But
Can I help you? What?
I don't. It seems to me like this was a Terry detainment.
Can I help you?
And in that case,
Can I help you? Yeah.
the officer would be able to control his movement. But is pushing this guy?
You was swerving back in your vehicle. Dude.
Pushing the guy doesn't seem like a reasonable use of force in the moment. I mean, he was getting out of the car. He wasn't even looking at the cop when the cop pushed him. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is a reasonable... I wouldn't say that this was necessarily a excessive force, but I could see this being a policy violation, is, I guess, where I'm going with this. Sounds like he said something about how he was swerving, and that's where you got the traffic at. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe we should watch a little more before we just start passing judgment on this.
What? Can I help you? No? Can I help you? Yeah. You was swerving back in your vehicle. Dude, get your fucking hands off me, dude. What's wrong with you? I'm being attacked by one.
Dude, you just attacked me.
Get on the ground now or you're gonna get tased. Get on the ground or you're gonna get tased.
Dude, you just attacked me.
Get on the ground or you're gonna get tased.
Hey, you just attacked me.
Get down on the ground or you're gonna get tased.
You just attacked me.
Put your hands behind your back.
You just attacked me, fool. And it's on camera.
Okay.
I gotta say, I'm glad that they finally added the warning tone to tasers. I feel like that's something that should have been incorporated into that device from the beginning. You can see how effective it was just then. He did not have to use his taser. All he had to do was make it known that he was willing to use his taser. So, I know that's a little bit of a side point, but I just wanted to make that clear. And I think all departments should be using this type of taser. But yeah, so I think that we can draw a little bit of, we got some context clues going on now. And you're right, Direct D. Yeah, it was the other guy, but still this is an important point to make, because it seems like what was actually happening here is that this guy who's in this car seemed to be under the impression that the officer was driving erratically. And so he decided to follow him to see, or to have a confrontation, I guess, or I don't know. It didn't look like he intended to stop, but he was following the cop, I think. That's what I'm picking up anyway so far. The I'm charging up sound. Yeah. Darren says, in Utah, you can defend yourself. It's a stand yourself state. Okay, first of all, stand yourself is what? Stand your ground state. And stand your ground laws typically only apply when you're facing deadly force from the other party, or a measurable degree of harm. Now, I haven't looked up. If someone wants to look up the specific statute about stand your ground in Utah, we can take a look at it, but I don't think that's going to apply in this situation. Typo. Okay. Yeah, no worries, Darren. No judgment. John, did we discuss the John Wick defense for saving the dog? We didn't. And we're lucky that woman didn't just pull out 2 9mm and start going crazy on everybody. Soxon says, it doesn't matter if the cop says, can I help you? It can still be detention if the cop's actions are interpreted as a reasonable intent at controlling movement. And yeah, I was talking about that earlier, Sock, about the Miller test and how, pretty much any signal that you would get that would reasonably be interpreted by anyone else in your position that, hey, you're being detained, is going to be enough for the cop to say, I effectuated a detainment, and then kick in all of the use of force protections that they have once they can effectuate a detainment. Colton, that's a great idea. They should add warning sounds to guns as well. That's a good idea.
You just attacked me.
5-6, give me the air, please. I got him prone down at Taser Point, right by Subway.
Dude, you pushed me.
No, you do not get out of your car. You do not follow a police officer. Are we understood? You do not get to do that.
Dude,
You do
I
not
was
get out of your
concerned
car. I
you
do
were
not know
drunk.
you. I do not know if you're aggressive. Now, exercise your right to remain silent.
I thought you were drunk.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Dude, you cut over lanes without even blink or using your signal.
5-6, I'm code 4. He's
All right, so that kind of confirms my theory there that he was following the cop. But again, there's nothing illegal about following someone on the roadway for a short period of time. Now, if he had engaged in a pattern of behavior that suggested that there was something inherently criminal about him following the cop, maybe that would be different. And again, we don't have all of the information to know what exactly this guy did that came before this interaction took place. So judging whether or not this officer had reasonable suspicion based purely on what we can see in this video is going to be incredibly difficult to do. I'm sure there's a lot of context being left out by just saying, you can't be following me around. But again, just following a cop around, especially if the guy was driving, he happened to see this cop driving like crazy, he's like, hey, I'm going to follow this guy. That's not illegal in any way. And I don't see how you could interpret that as reasonable grounds for a detainment. And again, like I said, I believe showing the flashlight is probably going to be considered, that'll make this a detainment. So
compliant. I got him at Taser Point. You're not going to follow me. You're not going to step out of your vehicle, okay? I do not know you. I do not know if you have a weapon.
You're right.
See, this is okay. I have a problem with this statement and this mentality. All right. You're like, and this, granted, there's a little bit of wiggle room for this cop to say this shit in this particular instance because the guy got out of his car. It kind of spiraled into something else. But this idea that I don't know what you're doing, so I'm going to assume the most criminal thing I can possibly think of. This is like a big problem in policing, all right? Just because you have a job where you do sometimes interact with criminals and that there is a large section of the population, or the section of the population is the largest group of people that do commit crimes, doesn't mean that every single person you encounter has the same capacity to commit a crime. So what you don't know shouldn't be submitted, or should it be circumvented through saying what you could know. All right. The statement that you don't know stands alone. There's no justifying it with, now I'm going to assume the worst thing possible. And this is, I think, my biggest critique of police culture in general and the way that police are being trained is that they are being trained to think this way, to think that that anything they don't know is likely criminal. And that's got to stop. That has to stop. This aspect of policing is one of the biggest division. It's creating the division between the public and their respective police force. You can't just, as a police force, you can't walk around assuming that everybody's a criminal. And that's exactly what this logic here is implying. Am I saying this is a lawful detainment? I think that's highly questionable, and we just don't have the facts necessary to draw that conclusion. What I'm saying here is that I believe it was a Terry stop. It was a detainment. The lawfulness of it is questionable and would require all the facts in order to make a legitimate decision on. Do I think hiring standards have been going down? There's no question that hiring standards have been going down for police forces because there's such a big need for police officers right now. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of departments that are way overstaffed. And there's certainly an argument to be made that we don't need this many cops. But with the current infrastructure that we have, there is lots of openings in the police force, and many departments feel as though they are understaffed, and that will in turn cause lowering hiring standards. Ghostwriter says, as much as you will hate them putting hands on you, but the moment you put hands on that cop, you have crossed the line. Well, yeah. That's a fair thing to say, but again, it's kind of sidestepping the whole like legal system we've put in place and the guardrails that we have to make sure these interactions go the way they're supposed to go. I don't disagree with the idea that cops should be able to control the movement of the people that they are suspecting of a crime. The problem is that they tend to suspect everyone of a crime. So that's where the problems begin. We can talk about the force that they're allowed to use and such, and there should be a national discussion on that topic, but I still think that there's no, it would be impractical to suggest that cops shouldn't be able to put their hands on suspects. But anyway, let's get back into the video. I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here.
You put your hands on me, though.
Yeah? Well, I'm a police officer. You do not approach a police officer in an aggressive manner.
You could have told me to step back, and I would have.
Yeah? Well, you've made your decisions today. You've made your decisions today.
You got your body cam on?
It sure is.
And you got yourself pushing me?
Yeah. Code 4, 82 with 1.
Hi. Sorry, copy, shutting up.
Holy shit.
Use
Oh my
force
God.
taser display.
I have a seizure.
We'll get that later.
Yeah, what was your probable cause for putting hands on me?
You were following me and you stepped out of your car in an aggressive manner towards me. You are not going to advance on a police officer. That is a threat.
No threats towards you?
That is a threat.
No, sir, and then you put your hands on me.
Okay, I don't think, okay, it's not a threat to get out of your damn car, all right? And we'll go back and look at the beginning of this video again in a minute, but what happened there, the sequence of events was that this guy was stopped. The cop asked him, "Can I help you?" He said yes as he was getting out of the car. He wasn't stepping at the cop aggressively. He wasn't doing anything aggressive whatsoever. We can already see the cop trying to twist the narrative a little bit here. The cop was the first one to put hands on anyone. This individual just reacted to that situation. Was his reaction proportional, lawful? You know, I don't know. But to characterize this as the cop felt intimidated and threatened for whatever reason is kind of, you know, I don't think that that's a legitimate critique of the guy's actions here. Direct D says, maybe it's different in other parts of the country, but in Arizona, if that cop didn't tell me I was under arrest or detained before he touched me, then it's an out-of-policy use of force or a completely unlawful use of force. Well, cops I think they don't have to explicitly say in most places, I don't know if there's like an Arizona statute about it, but they don't have to explicitly say you're being detained. There's no like legitimate legal requirement for them to say that. Of course, it's always within their best interest to say that so that you can't argue, hey, I didn't know I was detained later. But just because a cop doesn't say that, hey, doesn't explicitly say, hey, I'm detaining you, doesn't mean that you can now resist their lawful orders. But I totally agree that this was almost certainly a policy violation because the guy did not do anything that could be reasonably interpreted as physically threatening in any way. And there very well could have not been any reason for this traffic stop or for this Terry stop in the first place. So 2 points of contention there that are certainly worth considering.
I told you to back up.
You did not. You put
Yeah,
your
I
hands
put my
on
hands
me.
on you. Yes, I did.
You pushed me back.
Okay, whatever.
You had no reason to put your hands on me. You had no lawful authority to put your hands on me.
All I did was defended myself once you attacked me.
On you that's gonna poke
No,
a sticker?
sir. I don't have anything illegal on me.
I asked you if there's anything that's gonna poke.
No, sir. I don't have anything that's going to be dangerous to you or that is illegal. I'm in no way a threat to you or anyone else.
God, this sound is terrible.
There, I've got my headphones in my...
Sorry, can we uncode the air?
Yeah, Socksmith says this guy's way too emotional to be a cop. Look, I'm just gonna, again, this channel is just my fucking channel, all right? This ain't ATA, so you're gonna hear some of my opinions. This cop sounds like a whiny little bitch to me. He sounds like a fucking crybaby. And if you notice, his partner, when he first rolled up to the scene, he said, or maybe that was the guy on the ground. Someone said, "What was your probable cause for this guy, for taking this guy down?" But this cop sounds like a fucking crybaby.
Now you sit on your butt. Yep, absolutely.
Whatever
you need, boss.
My goodness, the freaking lights. Sorry, I can't control that.
Those are just my cartoons.
My goodness. Get the guy in the car or something.
Who was the one that over his head? Is that you?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Hell yeah to that sticker. That's pretty cool. You know what's interesting about this sticker is that there's a big dynamic here. You know? Like, what does a cop think when he sees this sticker? Does he think that the person inside this vehicle is pro-police or anti-police? What would be your initial reaction to seeing a car driving around with this sticker on it? Because I think for most people, this is largely an anti-police sentiment nowadays, but yet we have tons of cops walking around with this tattooed on them. So I'm just curious how we interpret this versus how you think a police officer might interpret that. Because I think that's cool. That's a cool sticker. It means a lot. It means very different things to me than I think it does to the guy looking at it right now. You know? You would think, Candace says she would think anti-police. And then right above that, Basque Brotato says he'd think he was a cop. So that's an interesting dynamic. You know, that we have this phrase that essentially defined the very fabric of our country now means completely different things to completely different groups of people. I don't know what that says about our country or about anything really, but it says something. There's something to be found in that. Have I seen the new movie Sovereign? No, I haven't. But I'll check that out.
No, so I'm heading westbound on 41 here, and this guy's like doing weird things to like avoid me getting his license plate. So I pull over, he goes to the right lane, and then he starts following me. He's like, "Are you drunk?" He gets out of his car, and I'm like, "No, don't get out of your car." And it was on.
All right, I feel like I need to hear that again. Sorry.
And he's like, so I pull, and this guy, I'm heading westbound on 41 here, And this guy's like doing weird things to like avoid me getting his license plate. So I pull over, he goes to the right lane, and then he starts following me. He's like, "Are you drunk?" He gets out of his car, and I'm like, "No, don't get out of your car." And it was on.
You know, that doesn't really add a whole lot to this. I mean, he's just saying that. We've all seen many times police officers, you know, just make shit up right then and there. So I'm not going to put too much deference in what this officer is saying or his characterization of how this interaction unfolded. But yeah, I can't, you know. Drake D says the new movie Sovereign is really going to throw a monkey wrench into a lot of these First Amendment auditors' dialogue and presentation on the internet. That movie was strategic. Interesting. Oh my God, when he gives the narrative, haha, so skewed. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to put too much deference into this because we all know how cops like to reiterate their narrative. So I'm not, you know, I think we should kind of just disregard what his recollection of the events, at least until he says something in an official capacity. He's just talking shit. And granted, this can be used in court, of course. It's captured on video, but this is easily going to say, you know, I was just characterizing this, blah, 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 blah. Lots of human elements, variables that can rule out any kind of legal claim or intention behind these statements.
Alright, well. I'm straight.
Stolen or something?
No. Yes.
Is there any way I could call my wife to come down and get the car so you guys don't impound it?
Have a seat for a second. We'll come talk to you just a hot minute, okay? All about all those good things.
I'm wondering what the crime is here. I'm still wondering about the crime. You know, like, from what I've seen so far, I'm not sure a crime has happened here. So it's going to be interesting to see how they inevitably resolve this interaction.
What the hell is that?
So I'm heading westbound on 41 here.
Hello, David.
Private cars. So I'm heading westbound on 41, and we're...
Duh, of course. Right when he was going to actually tell his narrative. Of course he mutes it. And this is why we should not be allowing police officers to mute their body cameras. Because he's allowed here to just cook up his own version of events to all the other officers you're looking at right now, while this guy in the back that they're holding has only one story to tell. And he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt in this situation. He muted it for 18 minutes, is what people are saying. Yeah, it's literally destroying evidence. And the Megan Fox wannabe. She does kind of look like that, doesn't she? There's Megan Fox as a cop. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that there should be an option to mute body cameras. I just don't see what the benefit is for the people. There's the only benefit that can be reaped from muting is for the police officers. Well, I guess let's get to the part where there's some actual audio. It's still muted. He's essentially muted this entire interaction. Still muted. Oh, is a video creator here? Where are you at, brother? Let's see. Oh, there you are. I see you now. I was following him for his license plate info to make a complaint, and then he attacked me. That's the story. So that makes sense why he was following you, or why he says you were following him. Any other context you could add to this that we may not know from the footage? Oh, we got some audio back here now. Still muted the whole time he's talking to the other officers.
70 today.
Switch from top to live. Oh, that's a good idea.
86.
There
Are
we
they
go.
still actively physical?
Yeah, I'm curious about what you were charged with, and if you were you arrested, or I mean, I guess we're gonna find out as we watch it. But
Physical, but the daughter is pretty. The computer is
5-6, I'm en route to counties 1.
50, 20, 21, 50.
sorry, guys, I'm bad about ignoring the chat as I'm going on these rants.
5-6, could you send me a check, please?
730-01 and stating that the police ranger Walter Floyd had violated code 1. 160 years old.
Code 4, you can suspend. Thank you.
The gentleman is the other for the wife's RO to the car.
86.
1046 complainant is in the kitchen.
I appreciate you, one man in Japan. Sorry, thank you for being patient with me.
1014, they're stating it will bite.
All right, so he says, I followed him for 1 block, pulled in behind him, and then this happened. I was only charged with assault on a police officer, never pulled over, no lights, no stop. He just attacked me. I was explaining this earlier, and maybe you didn't catch it, and I think that this is something important for you to understand. And before I say this, I'm speaking to you personally. Just wanted to be left alone. That's your name on here. I don't know your real name. This is not legal advice. Look at this disclaimer. I'm not an attorney. Obviously, this is just some guy on the internet's opinion. But there's this thing called the Miller test, which is the common law test for determining whether or not you've been detained. The test essentially boils down to, would a reasonable person have felt detained in a similar situation? Anytime an officer does anything through a show of authority to tell you to stop, and when he shined that flashlight at you, it could be interpreted that that was him effectuating his authority to do a detainment. So it doesn't really matter if he conducted a traffic stop on you. You can still be stopped under reasonable suspicion in your car and it not be a traffic infraction that caused the detainment. So I think that you have a strong chance of beating the charge, but I think that that's the perspective that the prosecution's probably going to be coming from, is that when he shined the flashlight and you pulled over and he said, "Can I help you?" he's essentially effectuating a detainment in that moment. Now, granted, if you have a good attorney, hopefully they'll be able to tear that prosecution to shreds. But just want you to know that this is what you're probably going to be dealing with in the future. So prepare for that. Think about that. Look up the Miller case, and bring that to your attorney's attention. Make sure that they know, that they're well armed to take on this situation. I talk about this in the book, the Civil Rights Hand Guide, that I have a whole section, I think, dedicated towards the end here, dedicated to how you should interact with your attorney and the kinds of things that you might want to say to them, and what are the basic tips on your relationship with your attorney. All right. Shameless plug. Yes, we see this right here. We talk about that in the book, about what to do, how to do it, what's the best practices, what you should consider. And one of the points that I make in there is that although you have legal representation, you know, when you go out of your way to find the right one, that doesn't absolve you of all of the responsibility to figure this out. Now, granted, you're paying someone to do it, and yes, you don't necessarily have a responsibility to continue trying to prove your innocence. That's their job now. But I think it would be prudent and practical advice to continue doing everything that you can to help your attorney prove your innocence. So bringing up ideas like, hey, are they going to try to argue that this was a legitimate detainment because he used a flashlight to pull me over, is a question you might want to ask your attorney. Maybe not just for the sake of getting an answer, but for the sake of bringing that potential argument to their attention. Just because they're an attorney doesn't mean that they're an expert legal scholar. There's tons of shitty attorneys out there. There's tons of good ones too. But it's never going to hurt to try to help your attorney, is what I'm getting at. Is that your book? Yes. That's my book. If you want to check it out, it's available on Amazon. If you want to buy it, this is it. This is actually the only copy I have of this book right now. I've given away most of them. But yeah, so yeah, sadly I have a public defender. Hope she's happy. Or yeah, I mean, look, I get it. Hiring an attorney is fucking expensive, man. Going the public defender route is, if that's your only option, of course you should do it. But then I would say it really becomes a lot more your responsibility to try to prove your innocence, because I'm not trying to make a blanket statement about all public defenders, but I'll just say you're not going to get the most quality legal service out of a free attorney. You know, that's just not how it's going to work. You will get much better legal representation if you go the private route. But again, I understand that this is not an option that's available to everyone. That's why we have this public defender system in the first place. But just want to give you a warning that be on your toes whenever you're interacting with a public defender, because they're not always acting in your best interest. A lot of times they are doing what the bare minimum that's required of them to get to the next case and continue working, you know. Let's see. Thank you for playing this. My pleasure, man. This is an interesting interaction, to be honest. You know, and it's very contentious. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in seeing this. Let's wrap it up and see how they end up treating this.
Well, if they're on the line still, maybe they should put the dog away.
That's right, one man in Japan. Thank you, Bushlight. Yes, please, thumbs up if you would. I would appreciate it.
Help police arrive. Also, there is going to be a 7-year-old in the hall.
It looks like the rest of this video is just them transporting him to jail. Hey Jack, good to see you again, man. AI will be your next attorney. That'd be a terrible attorney. Look, guys, AI is good at getting like this very surface level understanding of potential laws and stuff, but it cannot draft a case brief. It's very bad at doing legal research, and it's also pretty bad at, especially if there's not like a strong common law doctrine or some other legal precedent already set for something. It is literally incapable of critically thinking about the law and applying it to an interaction. For whatever reason, we still need people for that. But again, I was talking about this last time. I don't know if it's even possible for us to fit a logical binary system like the law, which requires like a lot of depending on scenarios, like, but still is beholden to binary logic in a lot of ways. I don't know if that fits squarely into what large language models are actually capable of doing. Granted, I'm no AI expert. I'm not even a law expert, really. But when as someone who has done a lot of legal research and has attempted to use ChatGPT to help with that research, it's not very good. It's okay at helping you get like a sense of the legal principles going on, but it is no substitute for a literal person just doing the research. I think that even someone who has never researched law before would produce better research than if you just let an AI do it. So yeah, don't trust ChatGPT when you're trying to understand legal concepts. Sometimes it will lead you in the complete wrong direction. It'll hallucinate cases that never even happened. It'll interpret laws in the complete wrong way. If you ask it to interpret a statute, it'll completely ignore all of the litigation and case law behind it. It just makes so many amateur mistakes that you cannot trust it. You'd be better off being represented by A1 than AI. Hey, that's a great steak sauce. I grew up eating that shit. And Joanna's right. A1's delicious. And honestly, I think I'd prefer to be represented by a bottle of A1 sauce than ChatGPT. Probably make more salient points. At least it wouldn't lie. At least it wouldn't just make shit up like ChatGPT does. Do I watch James Freeman's videos? Yeah, of course. He's one of my favorite content creators in this space. Now, look, we have personal disagreements about the philosophies that he supports, but I love his content and I love him as a person. He's a really fucking cool dude. But I mean, I'm sure something that you guys will discover about me is that I don't let anyone's personal philosophies dictate how I think about them as a person. So I can think that what you believe in is stupid, but I don't think that necessarily makes you a stupid person for believing in it, you know? So, James Freeman is very much, he touts this anarchy, anti-government sentiment. And I agree with some of those ideas, but he's pretty extreme on the anarchy side. I don't agree with that. I don't think that anarchy is a legitimate functioning way to progress society. And but that doesn't have any impact on what I think about James as a man, as a person, as someone living in this world with me. It doesn't really have much bearing on that. But he makes some of the funniest and most creative police-related content on the internet. So BioSpark says, I feel like the only time I get mad at someone for their personal philosophy is when their philosophy is their entire personality. Yeah. And it's not that I get mad at those people for that. I'm more so mad at the fact that we've allowed society to get to that point where we have people who are just, their entire identity is their political ideology. And that's a scary place to be. So I'm not, and granted, I don't even think it's necessarily directly like everyone's fault. It's not the fault of society that we are here having this discourse. I would blame social media if I were to blame anything. That has created this Hollywoodization of politics and created these tribal mindsets. So if you notice that this radicalization in politics almost directly coincides with the progression of social media and its prevalence in our lives. Electric, you're gonna have to send me a link. Email me a link to that if you have like something I could see and like play around with. I would love to mess around with that idea and maybe stress test it for you. I personally feel like if social media didn't exist in the way it does now, we would be way better off. I think in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. Look, as much as I can sit here and bitch about social media creating these tribalistic society, it has also contributed largely to the national dialogue surrounding police interactions as a whole. So, for example, without social media, the George Floyd incident never would have been popularized. Without social media, I wouldn't have a job. Or maybe I'd have a job, but it would suck. It would, it'd be much less cool than this job, So there are a lot of benefits to social media, tons of benefits. I'm just saying that for this particular negative aspect of society, social media is also to blame. So just something to consider, All right, we got 2 interactions left here. I'll just pull them up and we can decide which one we want to look at. This is another one that was covered by BPcast, and this one is actually a private submission that was sent to ATA. But it's a sovereign citizen, so you can kind of guess what's going to be said and done in this video, but I don't think it's been seen on the internet before, so it would be an exclusive video. But I don't know how much I can really add to this video beyond just making fun of the person in it, So, I don't know if there's much. We can't learn much from this video. It might be fun to watch, but and no one's seen it before, but there's not a ton to learn. But this right here is a legitimate police interaction. I haven't watched it, but again, I just saw it on BPcast channel. We've not only have we covered Cop Tua, dude, we're the ones who started Cop Tua. The whole Cop Tua thing that began right here on this stream. So yeah, we've covered that. We've covered that thoroughly. And I've spoken to Sean about it multiple times at this point. I'm sure if he has an update or anything like that, he'll let me know. So, all right, let me just start a poll. Let me see if I can do that. All right. I'm going to leave this up for like 2 minutes. You guys tell me what you want to watch, and we will watch it. I've been enforcing the use of Cop Tua. Hell yeah. That's what's up, Pariah. Hey, I wanted Long Island Audit to market that. You know what I'm saying? I think that he should take that and just do whatever he wants to with it. That's what I would want to happen there. He's the one who went through the problem, the trouble that Fahey caused. So any way that we can help him, and if that's by donating a catchphrase that we all came up with, then I'm happy for that to be our contribution to holding Fahey accountable. We also mailed him a book too, so we tried to educate him as well, you know, just through a practical means. So that hasn't been delivered yet, as far as I know, but he's got a copy of the Civilian Rights Guide hand guide coming his way, a signed copy at that. All right, police interaction it is. I think it's pretty clear what you guys want to see. And considering that this interaction is so short, maybe we can watch both, or at least some of the sovereign citizen interaction as well, just to have a high note to go out on, you know. ATA is in the red with 3 million subs and view counts 229, up to like 1.3 mil per video. No, well, yeah, again, we can talk about all that towards the end of the stream if you guys want to. But I'm not out here trying to advertise that necessarily, but I'm not hiding it either. So we'll talk about that later. What is a sovereign citizen? Just Google it, man. It's that simple. All right, so Kentucky State Police, Myron Jackson. I'm guessing that's the name of the officer right there. Again, we're dealing with state police this time. That's interesting. I usually don't get that many interactions involving state police forces, so.
All right, I'm driving through Kentucky. I get pulled over. Cop tries to say that I'm in the left-hand lane and I'm not letting cars pass. There was no cars behind me. He pulls me over. It's polite. Everything is great. To ask me to step back to his car, he's going to give me a warning. And then when I step into his car, he tries to say, hey, do you mind if I search your vehicle? And I'm like, no, you're not searching my vehicle. Well, he goes, it smells like marijuana in there. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I would never travel with anything in my car or do that. And then he saw my medical marijuana card and then says, well, now that I know that you smell marijuana, that adds to my suspicion. And I'm like, what? No suspicion whatsoever. So now he's illegally.
I don't know how a medical condition, keep in mind, that's what that is. Look, we have this whole perception built up about marijuana and its use. But in this case, if you have a medical marijuana card, that means that the marijuana you have is a medicine. It is a medical treatment, just like having, I don't know, prescription Tylenol or anything else. That's the legality, the lens through which you should be viewing the legality of possessing medical marijuana is just like possessing any other prescription drug that your doctor gave you. Okay, there's nothing illegal or suspicious about that whatsoever. And to say that you're building suspicion based on that fact is just wild to me. And there's no way, shape, or form, and again, I'll throw this up, there's no way, shape, or form that this is going to constitute a legitimate factor for determining whether or not reasonable suspicion exists. But again, look, let me say that we entered this video. The introduction to this video is the individual who was involved's recollection. So just as much as we're getting bias from when we hear cops talk to each other on the scene about what may or may not have happened during a police interaction, there's also that same degree of bias in people who are victims of police misconduct, or at least perceived victims of police misconduct. So we don't know what the cop actually said. This is just this guy's interpretation or recollection of what was said. So bear that in mind.
Searching my vehicle. He has me in the back seat of his car. He's over there legally searching my vehicle when I told him he did not have the right to search my vehicle. And now he's illegally detained me and put me in his car. So he's over there in my car right now, in my rental car right now, searching my vehicle.
Welcome back. Show
And
me
when I
audits.
told him he did not have the right to search my vehicle, he had no suspicion to do so, and he just created whatever scenario he wanted to, and now he's over there searching my vehicle illegally. I told him he's violating my Fourth Amendment right, and he's just going with it.
Where did you rent the vehicle from?
Florida.
Okay. Do you know there's shake in the stow and go? Yeah, that's probably what I'm smelling.
Shaking the stow and go.
All right. So now, okay. Now we can kind of reorient our view on what exactly is happening here, because when I first heard this individual, we're at 142. When I first heard this guy say, you know, that the cop pulled him over, he mentioned his medical marijuana card. Let's see if he.
You mind if I search your vehicle? And I'm like, no, you're not searching my vehicle. Well, he goes, it smells like marijuana in there. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I would never travel with anything in my car or do that. And
I see, this is what happens when you just jump into the video and start watching. I completely missed this part where he was talking about the smell of weed actually being the reason that this search is occurring. Okay. Now, I don't know about Kentucky, because here's the thing about, let me just do this. All right. So the smell of marijuana can still be used as probable cause to conduct a vehicle search in most states, even in states where it is legal. There are some states where they have recreationally legalized it and then subsequently passed statutory limitations on when the smell of weed can be used to justify a search or a detention or to create probable cause. I don't know about the laws in Kentucky in particular. Obviously, that'd be something we'd have to look up. But just because he has a medical marijuana card doesn't negate the probable cause that may have been derived from the smell of marijuana. Because again, the investigation could easily shift from possession of marijuana being the potential crime to driving under the influence of marijuana being a potential crime. Plus, there is higher court case law that has essentially determined that just because you can lawfully possess a certain amount of marijuana in recreational states doesn't negate the possibility that the smell of marijuana could lead to a possession of marijuana that exceeds the limitations within the state. So in most places where weed is illegal, you can only have a certain amount of it on your person at any given time. And I believe it's usually like around an ounce, which is still a pretty good amount, especially just for like personal use. But that any amount above that, if it's on your person at any given time, it would be a criminal offense, even in recreational states. So the argument is that the smell of weed could still indicate a crime is occurring, even in states where weed is medically or recreationally legal. So this is just a factor to consider if you're ever in a similar situation. The smell of marijuana is still basically a blanket excuse for officers to search your car, even in recreational states. How about driving with it in your system? Do you have to lick the stamp on a traffic stop? Driving with it in your system, I don't think. It depends on the quantity. And they do have laboratories that can determine, or at least make a reasonable assessment of, because you have this much of it in your system, this is the likely window of usage that you probably had. The problem with that, though, is that marijuana has a half-life of like 28 days. And so if you want to pass a drug test for marijuana, it would take you like a month to get clean. For most people, of course, there's a varying amount depending on your biological structure, but driving with a certain amount of marijuana in your system would certainly be considered a DUI in most places. But all right, let's get back to the video. We were at 142.
They're little pieces of shake in the stow and go compartment.
What's a stow and go?
It's where they push down the seats in that little compartment in there.
Oh, where the seat goes into the floor?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So I wasn't lying when I said I smelled marijuana.
Well, I mean, I didn't smell nothing, and I don't know.
Well, you also smoke marijuana, so you're probably used to the odor.
No, man, I told you I would not do that.
Okay.
There's, I don't know what you're saying is shaking there. If it's dirt, sand, grass from the previous person that rented it,
Well, that's
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying. It could be from the previous person.
I don't know, man.
But I'm not lying to you when I say I smell it.
Oh, show me.
Well, in a second I will.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I just want to say, look, I don't know how prevalent the smell of marijuana would be from some shake. Granted, we can't see whatever he's seeing at the moment, so maybe they'll show that in the video, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe he is lying, I guess is what I'm getting at.
So now he says he found shake in the car. You heard him on the video. He says he found shake. I don't know what he's talking about, but you know, it's a rental. I don't know if the previous person had something. Well, he says he smelled it. Like you can smell shake. That's the funny thing is like he's going over there and probably.
Rookie says this is the third video you've seen involving this cop. Can you, if you can, I'd love to see the other ones.
Planting drugs in my car right now because he's determined on making himself protected. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's hilarious. Direct D says, in all the traffic stop videos that I am in or on my channel, at 1000% smelled like weed every time they pulled us over because I was smoking weed in the car. Yeah, that's the logic follows on that one, bro, for sure.
So there he is going through my car claiming there was shake in there. I'm like, it's probably grass, like from feet, from the ground.
He's probably right too. No witnesses on the search.
Get a good video of him because he.
Yeah, there's no witnesses. I guess you're saying no footage of the search because again, this is a state police officer, and they generally don't have body cameras. And I explained why earlier.
Put me in the back of his car. See, this is what they do to you when they want to just try to find something. Is they put you in the back of their car so you can't videotape them.
It's the same case for why they don't have a backup officer. It's because state police have much broader areas of patrol. So you generally, when they call for backup, it's the local police department that gets there before another trooper does or another state police officer because they generally work pretty much alone. Their primary focus is traffic enforcement. Skip ahead a little bit here.
I've had that backpack for years.
How long have you had this bag?
I've had that backpack for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It smells like marijuana as well.
What? No, man. It don't smell. What are you smelling, bro? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Like I said, you smoke marijuana, I do not.
I don't smoke marijuana when I travel. I only
That's
smoke
not the
marijuana. I only have medical marijuana.
Is this the bag that you keep in your house?
Because it's prescription from the doctor.
Is this a bag that you keep in your house?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you smoke marijuana?
I mean, at home on my back porch, but that not.
Again, just like, this is where you say, sorry, officer, I'm not going to answer any of these questions. I'd like to invoke my right to remain silent. And if you wish to question me any further, I want my attorney present. Don't answer these questions. There's no reason to. Even though what this officer is trying to do, it seems like anyway, is move toward an arrest, but also potentially, you know, his argument would be, I was trying to dispel the suspicion that I had. But again, it's just so easy to say something that would unintentionally incriminate you in this line of questioning, that there's almost no scenario where it would be in your best interest to continue and answer this line of questioning.
Not that.
Okay. Well, just because you don't smell it doesn't mean the odor is not attached to it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put it in that, and I don't smoke it around that. That stays in my closet until I travel.
How am I supposed to do my job if I have someone that's constantly going against what I'm saying, like I'm trying to violate your rights?
Yeah. I'm just saying that never would marijuana be in the same location in that bag, because that's what I use just to carry my clothes in, and it stays in my closet inside the house.
So how do I know if I don't check?
I mean,
Okay, so Bill asks, does the officer need more to search in the bag? Let me throw this disclaimer up real quick. My initial reaction, of course, I would have to look into the circuit case law and state case law in Kentucky. But generally, if officers begin a search for the smell of weed, we'll be pretty specific about this since we have this scenario in front of us. They're allowed to essentially take that search anywhere that probable cause would lead them. So if his whole foundation for the search is, I smell marijuana, and then he gets into the car and he finds a bag that smells heavily like marijuana, there's a strong argument to be made that he would have had probable cause to search the bag as well. Now, if he goes in, he searches the bag, he doesn't find anything, maybe you could, make some kind of claim afterwards. But generally, officers are allowed to expand their search to the immediate area and all the things in the immediate area that they have a legitimate probable cause to search. So I do think that he probably could go in the bag at this point, based just on the smell.
You don't know, but you take my word for it, and I didn't do anything to give you the idea that I'm smoking.
If I took the word of the last guy that was actually transporting drugs, I would have let 4.5 pounds of methamphetamine go down the road.
Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, I mean, not a chance I would do that. Not a chance. I'm not stupid, man. I'm a single dad. I got kids. There's no.
He's kind of asking for consent to search the bag without really asking for it here, isn't he? I think it's interesting that he didn't just search the bag. If he thought, if he was so convinced that he would find something in there, then just search it. But it seems like he's got some reservations about that. And this is why maybe not answering their questions would help you in this situation, because you don't want to give him a license to search your bag,
No way I would do that. It's just ridiculous. Oh.
That's a fair critique. Show me audits that a good cop would always ask. That's a good point. A good cop would ask, and not for the reason you think, not because he's trying to do you a solid and ask before he violates your privacy. It's because it would be it's always best if you're an officer to do a search under the premise of consent, because then you can't have this argument later about whether or not you even had the authority to do the search. So it would be in the officer's best interest to just ask for consent to search the bag before actually searching it. So that's a good point.
Hard time, but I'm gonna do my job regardless of whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
like I said, man,
you may not like what I did, you may think it's violating your rights, but it's not.
We did, Bill.
there's no, I mean, I do understand the law, and I do understand that there's no articulable suspicion for you to think that there was marijuana in there.
Or probable cause at that point.
No.
The odor of marijuana gives me probable cause to search the vehicle. I already.
This is why you said that, because you saw this.
I don't even know what that's not what that looks like here in Kentucky.
Oh.
I've never seen a medical marijuana card here in Kentucky. Yeah. So I don't even know what they look like.
So he's right about that. You know, we talked about it earlier, but obviously he is right that, you know, he has probable cause to search just on the smell. Now this guy's trying to argue, well, you only claim to have smelled that smell once you saw the medical marijuana card. But then the officer's like, but I've never seen a medical marijuana card. I don't even know if that's what you're showing me. I mean, you're just saying that, which I think is a legitimate defense to what this guy's saying. You know, he's saying, hey, you only searched because I showed you this card, and the cop's like, well, I don't know what the fuck that card even means. So yeah, again, I'm not trying to justify this officer's actions. I have doubts about any time a cop claims to smell marijuana. To me, that's just they're just looking for a reason to search, obviously. But of course, there probably are going to be some situations where cops do get probable cause legitimately through the smell of marijuana. And I mean, I don't know whether or not to, you know, and I'm not speaking on whether or not this officer is telling the truth. He could be very well lying, you know, just to address what Pariah is saying here. He could be lying about never having seen a medical marijuana card, but I think in the moment that was at least a legitimate thing to say. Is, hey, you know, I've never seen that. I don't know what that is. And I think that that's something that he could take into the courtroom and make a legitimate, you know, point about. So,
see, that's you assuming that I'm trying to violate your rights.
But you also assume something that is not articulated.
The odor of marijuana is enough to give me probable cause to search a vehicle. That is not an assumption.
Oh, no. Here, I got a surefire way for you to know that what you're saying is and you think that maybe I'm on cannabis is to simply smell my fingers. If I've been smoking cannabis, no. Guess what? If I've been smoking cannabis, guess where the cannabis smell will live forever.
Look, no, no one's gonna smell your fingers, man. That's not gonna happen. And that is not a legitimate way to prove that you haven't been smoking marijuana. There are many ways to smoke weed without actually touching it with your hands. The smell my finger defense, I don't know if that one's gonna pan out. Smell my fingers. I'm innocent. Imagine he just stuck his fingers in his ass right before that.
It'll live right here on these fingers.
I'm not going to let you put your fingers in my face.
Nothing. I'm just saying that is a good way for you to do it for anybody.
Like it or not, I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the car, so like I said, I'm going to let you go. But if I were to happen, if someone else happened to stop you down the road, the same exact thing is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, what you smelled, but yeah, I would guarantee.
I told you your backpack smells like weed.
Yeah, I mean, cigarettes. I do smoke cigarettes.
Okay, well, I know.
And I smoke cigarettes in the car.
I know what marijuana smells like.
Yeah.
Your backpack smells like marijuana.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't smell it, and I would never do that. I've never once ever put anything in my Ferrari backpack ever.
Again, you know, look, I get it's easy to give all this deference to the guy who's being stopped here, especially since we know that this cop has some sort of history. But again, you know, it's not, your innocent explanations are not a something that a cop has to factor into their determinations about reasonable suspicion and probable cause to a large degree. Now, it is always in your best interest to try at least to dispel whatever suspicions cops may have about you, but it's not unreasonable for the cop not to believe just what you're saying. If you had some other exculpatory evidence to verify what you're saying, then maybe that would be a different discussion. But merely offering a subjective, unverifiable explanation is, the courts have ruled that that's not necessarily a factor that a cop has to take into consideration. The facts surrounding whether or not something is lawful are largely objective. And what this guy is doing here is giving his subjective interpretation of what's going on here, which is just as flawed as what the officer is doing by presenting a narrative that he may have been smoking marijuana. So, Freeman Keys says, Confucius once say, a man who go to bed with itchy asshole wake up with stinky finger. Smell my fingers.
You're obviously not understanding what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
No, you're not.
I do.
No, you're not.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Free to go. Hold on, let me give you...
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good one, man.
All right. So I think what we just watched there was a lawful police interaction. I don't have much to say about it beyond that. It seems like that was pretty lawful. The smell my fingers defense didn't really help him out much, but again, I guess he didn't need it because the cop didn't find anything. But again, don't do that. No one's gonna smell your fingers to prove your innocence. Even if he had done that, it wouldn't have proved anything. But I get it. You're in a situation. This is another thing about police interactions that people really don't talk about that much, and is again it's not necessarily about the law, but this is just a practical aspect that comes into play in a lot of police interactions, and that is the psychology elements of what's going on here. Again, another topic that I covered pretty thoroughly in this book was the psychology of police interactions. And it was pretty early on in the book because it's one of those things that is often overlooked. Like this individual was trying their best to prove their innocence. That was their main intention and motivation. And in that moment, you're not thinking, or the average person is not thinking, I need to preserve my constitutional rights. They're thinking about, how do I get out of this situation? How do I go, how do I fix this? What do I have to do to show this cop that I'm not committing a crime or not doing what he thinks I'm doing? So that becomes your primary motivation in the midst of all these things happening, and pretty much all other logic and considerations get sidelined for that particular objective in the moment. So something to consider if you're ever involved in a police interaction is maybe just take a moment to check yourself, and be like, let me just assess the reality of this situation and think about the appropriate course of action to move forward. Because wildly spitting out things to prove your innocence could very well make the situation a lot worse, and create layers of confusion. And you may very well say something that you're then going to have to own later. So I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to people who are involved in police interactions is to just take a second to check yourself and calm down and try to get back to a normal state of emotions and thinking, and don't let the situation overwhelm you, because that happens a lot. We see it all the time. Let's see. Josh says, I'm still waiting to see an interaction where the canine did not alert to the presence of controlled substances, regardless if there are any present. I've actually seen a few of those. And don't get me wrong, I know where you're coming from. You know, it is often the case that a canine, an exterior canine search has a positive alert and they ultimately end up finding nothing. But I have seen a few interactions, you know, more than none, where the canine did not alert and they did not proceed with the search. So, and again, you have to bear in mind that in a situation like that, it's not like that would be an interaction where that would get uploaded to the internet for everyone to see. If a dog goes around a vehicle and doesn't alert and they just drop it and everything goes on about its way, that's not typically the type of interaction that would find its way to the internet. So that's probably a contributing factor as to why we don't see those kinds of videos. I'm sure that probably does happen all the time. But we don't see that on the internet because nothing meaningful happens in that situation. Let's see. What are you guys arguing about over here? Sandy says, if smoking a doobie lasted that long, the weed industry would collapse. Wait, what? I saw one canine not indicate once. I've seen it a few times. And again, you know, this is not the type of content that we would typically see people uploading onto the internet anyway. You guys are still stuck on the smell my finger defense. Yeah, I think someone said it earlier, but he needs some of that oil that Kapil had from that other interaction that we watched last time, just to roll on his fingers if that's a legitimate problem he's having. It's not hard to get a dog to announce if you want it to. No, I agree with that. And maybe one day we'll look into the whole canine unit thing, because I do have a lot to say about canine units and their effectiveness. But yeah, I completely agree that if a cop wants a dog to alert, he could probably get him to, you know? No one's, I don't know if anyone's actually arguing. I was just joking, assuming that that's what was happening over here. A HIPAA violation? I don't know if that's a HIPAA violation. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I would have to look into HIPAA again. I did do a episode of ATA that involved a bunch of HIPAA related things a while back, but that was like 2 or 3 years ago. So, and one thing you guys may not know, this is something that people, look, let me just say this, and I'm glad I get to say this publicly to 211 people. I'm not some lexicon, like some unceasing knowledge of case law and statutes and legal knowledge, you know? That stuff doesn't just stick in my brain forever. Of course, I have a pretty strong grasp on the fundamental elements surrounding the concept of constitutional law, but I don't just have a library of every law and every case and every interaction that has ever happened floating around up here in my brain. So when we get to specific topics like HIPAA or some of the other things we've even discussed here on these live streams, I would have to go and do the research again and refresh myself on how this stuff operates in order to give you a legitimate analysis of the situation. So I'm not just some super genius, you know. I've just developed certain research skills and writing ability, and that's what's really on showcase with ATA. You know, again, as this disclaimer right here says, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a journalist. The only degree I have is in journalism, which is kind of a shitty degree, in my opinion. Doesn't really give you any credibility to any meaningful degree, especially in today's climate. But I just want to make that clear that, you know, I don't have all the answers. I'm going to be wrong. There's a lot of shit that I'm going to get wrong, that I'm going to interpret the wrong way. There's probably a lot of factors that or a lot of case law and shit that just leaves my brain and I just don't consider it. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that so that we set a bar here on this channel that is not up here where ATA is at. You know, like it's hard to get to here. It takes hours. Me just sitting and giving you my opinion on something is like way down here. It's like way below what you can even see on the camera right now. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Take what I say on these lives with a grain of salt. I'm not a fucking super genius or anything like that. You're pretty damn smart, though. I mean, yeah. Well, according to some people, I guess. I think intelligence is pretty relative. What research tools do you use for case and case law? I mainly use Westlaw now. I was using damn it, what was the other one? LexisNexis, but they got bought by Westlaw recently. So that and Pacer are basically the two main research tools that I use for interpreting case law. Oh. MG says, you do pretty well despite not being a lawyer. I've learned a lot from your case law regurgitation. Yeah, and that's largely what I'm doing, is regurgitating case law and trying to connect the dots between legal concepts and what's actually happening in a police interaction. So yeah. LexisNexis took a hit to the solar plexus for sure. They got absolutely shit on. And there was a reason I wasn't using Westlaw. It's because I did not like their UI and the way that their shit was set up. And now, fuck, we don't have a choice. Capitalism, you know? I'm one up on most people. I mean, well, anyone who's spent the last 6 years, well, even more than that for me, the last 6 years is just the amount of research I've done for the channel. I was doing legal research before that. You know, I think I told you all that I used to write for a newspaper, and one of the things that I wrote about quite often were different Supreme Court case decisions. So, you know, I'd been building this body of knowledge, I guess, for quite a while before I even started the YouTube channel. So I'm one up on other people only because I've spent the time to actually look into this stuff. Most people don't do that. Most people don't have that kind of time. Most people aren't interested in this kind of stuff. So it's not that I'm better than anyone or that I'm, you know, have done anything special or I have some kind of special mind. That's just not the case. I've just put in the hours, and anyone who's dedicated as much time as I have to trying to understand this stuff would have the same, or if not a better understanding of this than I would. Joanna says it's recitation is probably better than regurgitation. Yeah, you know, however you want to put it. Sandy says, gosh, sounds like a bunch of little hurt kids. Too bad. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Sandy. Electric says, everything I learned about the law I learned from ATA. So yeah, I'm pretty much a lawyer now. Well, if you're a lawyer, you owe me like $80,000 in student loan debt. Long time watcher. Great to see you live. Thank you, MK Ultra. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're enjoying the content with us. Walk Hike Explorer. I wonder if that ex-cop who was crying about Lackluster has cried over your video yet. I don't even think he knows who I am. I doubt I'm on his radar at all. I mean, that guy has like 5 million subscribers. You know, he's making videos every single day about dumb bullshit that he chat GPT'd about. I doubt he knows that I even exist. Price says, but not everyone packages it up and teaches it to others. Yeah, and I guess that is the beauty of ATA. Yeah, you're right about that. Peter says everybody has a special mind. That's true. Everyone does have a special mind. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you, Sock. I appreciate the kind words. I wasn't fishing for compliments there. I'm just trying to explain that you could do what I'm doing. You know, anyone could do what I'm doing and what I've done and know the things that I know. There's no barrier to entry for that knowledge. And I'm glad that I could be a resource for other people to understand these things. But I think one of the biggest like implications that ATA has made over the years is that it is not impossible for the regular person to understand the law, and that it can be broken down into simple terms, and that in a digestible format that's available for all people to know and learn from. So I appreciate the kind words, and you know, I'm glad that you guys think highly of me, but you know, at the same time, you know, I'm just a YouTuber, and I'm just doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, what I have the skill set to do, and what I've spent the most time trying to do. I'm sure that that's the case for you all as well, you know, whatever you're doing in your life. Now say some mean shit. Fuck you, Daniel. I'll say some mean shit about you. You ugly. Don't sell yourself short. ATA is seriously one of the most educational channels on legal rights I've found. Yeah, maybe so. There's certainly others now. You know, we got the civil rights lawyer. I think there's a lot to be learned from his channel. And yet, my favorite civil rights channel, not ass kissing, just appreciative. Thank you, Joanna. I appreciate you saying that. You're okay in our collective book. Well, that's good. 4D says, do you avoid talking about how you wish things were and focus only on how things are? If so, why? Yeah, for ATA, explicitly, yes, I do only focus on how things are, not how I want them to be. And that's very intentional. The reason that I do that is because the whole point of ATA is not to advocate for some grand change in the paradigm of law enforcement. The point is to show you, hey, look, this is how the system works as we currently have it. And this is how you navigate that system. I'm not trying to make a bigger point than that. It's just an educational tool for you to understand how the system works now. Now on this channel, I do tend to make plenty of remarks about how I think things should be changed and what are the problems I have personally with the system that we have set up. And that's not going to change. Over the course of joining these live streams and consuming content for this channel, you are going to hear my opinions about law enforcement and the status of law enforcement in American society. But I intentionally I censor those sentiments from ATA because the goal is education, not advocation. So that it's intentional. Josh H., thank you for the $2, brother. Thanks, John. I like big butts and I cannot lie, especially when it's on a guy. That's a clever rhyme, Josh. I like that. Maybe they should remix that song. Clever. How many people have had arguments in bars about what entrapment really is? Yeah. That's exactly, Electric. That is the audience I am trying to reach with ATA, is to hopefully quell all of the broad misconceptions that are associated with law enforcement, civil rights, and police interactions. So yeah, that's a great example. Walker Work says, John, I like your style, but I really like your followers and their comments. Are you leaving, Thomas? thank you for joining us. If you're leaving, I don't know how to interpret that wave emoji. Sorry, Walker says, John, I like your style, but I really like your followers and their comments. I know, right? This is that's why I think that's what makes this stream good. I'm not very entertaining. You know, I have some shit to say occasionally, but you know, I've never been a like on camera personality, and this is why I went into print journalism when I entered the field, because I mostly like to write. You know, writing I think is my primary skill, and researching, of course. But yeah, the people in this chat make this live stream so much better. Just the quality is very high in the chat. That's not something you really get out of a lot of live streams. You know, most people who are live streamers, they have a toxic following of people, and that's not the community I'm trying to create here. John Lang says, or One Man in Japan says, John, I miss Legal Dissent. That guy had well-made videos and legal research to back him. Then he got sick and the channel just went silent. Do you ever watch that guy? I've actually talked to him before. We had conversations, and I was like, hey, you got a great channel. Glad you're doing it. That's awesome. But that was the extent of the conversation. We haven't talked since. And I haven't looked at his channel in a while either, so I didn't even know he wasn't posting. But that's interesting. Direct D says, a little known fact about my channel, John Langer ATA was the first person I ever talked to from YouTube. Yeah, and since you mentioned that, I guess I can tell the story of that, and I'll try to leave out any, you know, private details. But so Direct D, when he uploaded a video, you know, he wasn't a First Amendment auditor. He just was a regular citizen who had a bad police interaction. Like many people who eventually do become auditors, it sent him down the path of discovering, oh wow, there's a bunch of fucking corruption going on I didn't even have any idea about. We were just talking about this on the phone the other day. And I remember when Direct D posted the video of the interaction that sort of sparked his whole interest into this stuff. I reached out to him at the time, and at the time, Lackluster and I were working together to garner videos. So I was actually reaching out to him to pay him to use his video. And at the same time, though, I was also, you know, we were having a conversation about, you know, the landscape of the auditing community, all the drama that tends to stir up in that community. And I just tried to advise him, like, hey, look, you know, there's this movement within this movement that involves some people who don't really know what they're talking about, and they're very radical in their belief structures. I just want to caution you not to get involved with those individuals. And then, you know, here we go. Direct D found his way on YouTube. Now he has a very successful channel with a pretty solid, and as he's characterizing them, toxic following, but hey, they're there. Thomas got 3% battery. All right, I'll try to get in as much as I can. We only got about 12 minutes left on the stream anyway. But yeah, so yeah, I was one of the first people to reach out to Direct D. And believe it or not, there's probably a lot of auditors that might tell you that very same story. Or a lot of people, because I try my best to make connections with people who are first entering the whole YouTube police community, just to help guide them in the right direction. Not to necessarily dictate their content, but to give them advice and just try to be a helpful resource for people who are navigating this space, because it can be difficult. Direct D is doing a great job attempting to educate his followers. I have to agree. And not only is he doing a great job, but he's suffering as a result of it, which is, it sucks, but that's just the climate we live in today. Freeman's chat tried to get him to tear into me one night. We had a great discussion over constitutional rights and privilege. He's a great guy. Yeah, I could see him resisting something like that. You know, Freeman, he has critical thinking ability. So, do we have any more vids? We do have this sovereign citizen video, but we don't have a lot of time left. But we could, yeah, and I think people should pay attention to that, what Direct D just said. He says, yeah, I know how YouTube works. I could be making compilation videos that get hundreds of thousands of views, but I'm intentionally not. And that's true. Direct D is a man with a fucking mission. And his content reflects that. So I'm sure he has no qualms about losing a few subscribers to say what he wants to fucking say. And I appreciate that about a person. I think that kind of resolve is rare, especially on the platform of YouTube. So, yeah, I agree with that. I give it up to you, man. So again, this is, we're not going to watch this whole thing, but hey, maybe we can end on a high note and just laugh at this fucking idiot that recorded this and then sent it to me and signed the rights of this video over to me to show you today. So just to be clear, this isn't just me maliciously showing this video. He sent me this video with the intention of it being showcased on Audit the Audit or, you know, whatever, one of my other channels, which ended up being this one. I mean, I only have two, but this video was not going on Audit the Audit. You'll see why. So here we go. Let's just get a little laugh in, I guess, before we wrap this up.
I'm gonna hit mute so you can't hear us.
All right.
Yeah, you guys try your best to be objective here.
Hey, how you doing today, sir?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Good. What's the license plate for? Statement for police. Exercise your rights card. The police...
You know what's so weird about sovereign citizens? And I was just talking to Justin from The Random Patriot about this the other day. Is that there is such a wild, incoherent ideology behind sovereign citizens. Like, half of them believe that we still exist in a country dictated by maritime law and that the Constitution is a fabricated document that doesn't mean anything, and it was really only created to establish the federal government's control over the people, right? That's one prevalent thread in the whole sovereign citizen thing. But then you have all these other sovereign citizens who do somehow have this like quasi belief system in the Constitution where they believe it either literally at face value and that's it, or they believe that only certain aspects of the Constitution are actually legitimate. You know, it's just wild that there's been this movement in the sovereign citizen world where they're combining the ideas of constitutionalism with sovereign citizen ideology, and then it's just creating this whole other animal that's not even a constitutionalist or a sovereign citizen. It's some other weird thing that doesn't make any sense at all. So yeah, you're above the Constitution. It's a contract I did not enter into. Please, while we're watching this video, give me your best sovereign citizen one-liners in the chat. I'd love to hear them. This is going to be the funniest part of this whole fucking video. Please drop your sovereign citizen knowledge in the chat for me. And let's just see how many of these points he hits as we go through this.
Being audio and video recorded, just so
What's
you know.
that?
You're being audio and video recorded, just so you know.
All right, no problem. Do you have a driver's license with you?
I'm not offering any incriminating information.
You what?
I'm not going to offer any incriminating information. What's the issue?
Well, the issue is you're driving without a driver's license.
Okay, first of all, it's already been ruled in higher courts that your license, there's almost no situation where your identity is incriminating, okay? Especially during a traffic stop. There are some exceptions, very minor exceptions, but generally, if you've been lawfully stopped, your ID, your identity is not incriminating. And you know, you can't invoke, I'm not giving you my license because that would incriminate me. I'm going to read some of these one-liners real quick. This is not a commercial vehicle. Yeah, that one's very prevalent. I'm traveling, not driving. That's probably the most well-known sovereign citizen bullshit that they spout. That's the most consistent thing. I think that's the most consistent part of their whole ideology anyway. If anyone's entering sovereign citizen ideology, that's the first thing they learn. Let's see. We're still operating under the Articles of Confederation, so all courts have no jurisdiction. Yeah, the no jurisdiction argument. That's another good one. I am in honor. You are not. I am still in honor. Yeah, they do say that shit a lot too. And the whole "I'm a living man," or that is not my name. That's the government's description of me. I'm representing my own name as the living man.
License
a
plate
new
on your
bingo
vehicle. I
card
need your
coming.
driver's
Yeah.
license, please.
For what purpose, sir?
Okay.
That's not true. I'm not in commerce right now. I do.
Oh, there it is. I'm not in commerce. We've talked about this one a lot. Again, you know, I'm not going to fact check everything here, but I'm sure you all know that driving is regulated at the state level. Commerce has nothing to do with their ability to do that. This is retarded.
License for the purpose of commerce.
You what?
I do have a license for the purpose of commerce.
You what?
I do have a license for the purpose of commerce.
I'm wondering where he got this license for the purpose of commerce. Did he go to the federal government and get that? Like, where do you get this license for commerce if that's the case?
Do you understand what that means?
You have a license for the duty of commerce.
Yeah, do you understand what that means?
No.
You don't?
No.
But you're pursuing people on the highway.
Oh, I love the scoffing laugh there, as if they're like, how could this idiot not know about our retarded ass ideas? How could this dumbass not know that we're fucking idiots? I saw some. Show Me Audit says I screwed up on a stop once and said that I was traveling to the convenience store, and yep, I didn't know anything about the sovereign citizen movement until after that. Yeah, that really is all you got to say to get a cop triggered about it.
Way of your own accord.
Right, so you're driving down the street.
Castlerock versus Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Castlerock versus Gonzalez.
Wait, let me just hear what you said.
Officers have no duty to protect the public.
Well, that is true. That is true. In the Castle Rock v. Gonzalez case, that is true. But again, okay, like, as a sovereign citizen, do you believe in the judicial system? Are you drawing from the knowledge of the courts? Because if you are, if that's your position, then why are you ignoring all of the other precedent that has been set about this? Why? Well, like, how? Again, this is what they do. They cherry pick the case law to fit their narrative, if they even believe in the case law, and if they don't, they just default to the maritime law argument.
You have a duty to protect the rights of men and women. So right now you have no judicial immunity if you move forward with anything, because I'm not in commerce and I don't.
Can we have his name? Can we have his name?
Show your name?
Sure, it's Officer Barber.
No, that's a title. That's a title. I need your full name.
Sure, no problem, sir. It's Officer Barber from Lower Providence Police. And
Okay.
Can I have your name, please?
No, you have his. Can you have his first name?
What's your first name?
Matthew.
Matthew?
Yep.
I give it to the officer for at least placating this for a moment to avoid escalation. The officer's doing great so far. Joanna, that's right. If you're admitting one case is valid, then you're essentially inviting all other cases to be valid. I don't understand how you could have this grand philosophical problem with the government and then that still be your resource for deriving your anti-authoritarian viewpoint on this particular topic.
Would he like to be appointed fiduciary trustee?
Matthew Barber, stop looking around my car, please.
No, everything's in plain view right here.
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong. Matthew Barber, what's your
Stop looking in my car. I'm going to control your eyeballs.
Badge number 60.
That's title.
Okay.
Right.
Matthew middle name.
They get so caught up on this idea of there being these like semantic distinctions in the most minuscule, pointless things, like whether or not officer is a name or a title. No shit, we know it's just a title, but him saying officer whatever is enough for you to understand who he is and continue on with this interaction. And if he does something wrong, you have all the information you need to find him later.
So listen, do you have your driver's license with you?
You're not driving, you're traveling.
Traveling.
Oh,
If you're traveling
bingo!
on
Free spot in the middle. That would definitely be the free spot on the bingo card. There's no way you're getting through a sovereign citizen interaction without that phrase coming up. Do soft sits have their own version of attorney shield? That would be funny. That would be so funny. Somebody should make a parody video doing that about attorney shield. That would be hilarious.
the highway, you need to have a driver's license, right?
No, you
Do
don't.
you have insurance for the vehicle?
Sir.
Do you
I
have
have everything that I need. I have everything that I need
Okay,
legitimately
where's
for
your
commerce.
insurance for the vehicle?
It's here. This is
Okay.
my insurance information.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm not.
Can I have your insurance information, please?
Okay. I'm not.
I need to make sure your insurance.
Again, most states, pretty much every state has a law in the books that says you have to present your proof of insurance. So you can't just say, yeah, I have it. You can't see it though. That's probably going to be a traffic infraction. I don't know where this is taking place, but still.
Insurance information
I'm
is
insured.
valid so you can continue on your travels, sir.
I do not consent to
Sir.
contract.
Sir, I don't consent to contract. I'm legit.
Yeah, is his girlfriend the one that's the perpetrator of this kind of information? She seems to know a little bit more than this guy. It's like this guy's first run. So, I mean, maybe he just got connected with the wrong woman. You know what I'm saying?
I'm legit.
I don't know that, okay?
What,
I don't
what
know
crime
who
am
you
I?
are.
What crime am I?
You're
accused-
driving down the highway.
That's not a
you don't have
crime.
license plate
That's
on your
unlawful. I do have a license plate on my vehicle.
That's not a crime. It's unlawful. Okay. Now the argument what he's really trying to say there is because there's no victim to that crime, no direct harm has been caused to any particular person, then it's not a crime. It's just an unlawful behavior. But here's the problem with that logic is that you're only looking at it from one degree of depth because there actually is harm being done to other people when you drive around with no registration, no insurance, and all that. Because if you happen to get into a crash, no one's going to be able to figure out that's your vehicle, who owns it. You're not going to have the money to pay for the damages that you caused to the other person's vehicle. So just because there hasn't been any literal damage yet doesn't mean that there isn't any harm caused or potential harm to be caused. And this is another thing is that sovereign citizens only give a fuck about themselves. They don't give a fuck about anyone else in the entire country. And they think that they should just be able to do whatever the fuck they want at the expense of every other person in this country. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems I have with the entire ideology, aside from it just being complete nonsense, is that it perpetuates this self-serving, narcissistic attitude that ultimately develops with these people. And this is how it even got to become a domestic terrorist organization, is because of that attitude boiling over into literal gunfights and serious crimes. So, yeah, this is dumb shit.
You do not.
That's a plate on my vehicle, right?
It's not a registered plate, sir.
Right, but this isn't your property, and I'm not a slave.
No one called you a slave.
But that's what you're doing by pursuing.
Again, like they're saying, obeying the rules that society has set out for everyone that we've all agreed to is somehow putting this guy into some degree of slavery. You can see how narcissistic this ideology is.
Because right now, The motor vehicle code doesn't speak about it.
The motor vehicle.
Look,
code
under
of
duress, I'll give you my
Pennsylvania-
license. Under duress.
Perfect. That's fine.
Under threat, duress, and coercion.
Thank you.
Under threat, duress, and coercion.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're
Excuse
witnessing
me.
that.
Okay. He first of all, he was never threatened. No one ever threatened anything. The cop never even said, if you don't show me your license, I'm taking you to jail. He was just trying to point out, hey, it is against the law. And then this guy's immediately interpreted that as a threat. Terrible. No, this guy's not an auditor. I don't think any sovereign citizens can be First Amendment auditors.
Stay
one
inside the
card.
vehicle.
Don't get out. Be nice. Just be nice, Marcus.
I am.
And just say, I do not consent to contract with you. I'm a living soul created by God. I have the right to travel in my own private capacity. I am in.
Yeah, okay. We know who the cult leader is, don't we? It's obviously this guy's old lady running the show. I don't know who she is, but she's probably got a nice little, what do they call those hippie communities? Commune. She's probably got a solid commune going on. It's his mom. It's his mom giving him instructions. I'm a living soul created by God. Yeah, it is crazy how that turns into a cult so fast. They deserve religious status. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same degree of legitimacy, isn't it? They're drawing from pretty much the same doctrine of axiomatic beliefs. Let's call her Karen. Yeah, that's right, Thomas. I invoke the Magna Carta. They really do say that, though. A lot of their ideology really does go back to those pre-America documents, and because prior to the American Constitution, there was this prevailing thought about people being governed by God, not by law. And law and God were basically the same thing. I mean, all the laws were written through the lens of God, and whatever prevailing religious sentiment might exist in a particular area. So, yeah, a lot of crossover, a lot of parallel in those two realms or ideologies, those two ways of thinking, if you will. I abide by the code of Hammurabi. That is hilarious. It's funny because there's probably no limit to how far back they'll stretch to get the documentation to make this point. Like there's no end to like. I wouldn't be surprised to find a sovereign citizen quoting Sumerian cuneiform or something like that as some kind of justification for their living rights. So that's hilarious. I never consented to being a U.S. citizen. I guess you kind of consent by implication by staying here, I guess. Do sovereign citizens identify as U.S. citizens? Or no, they don't see themselves as U.S. citizens. The idea of sovereign citizen is that they are sovereign from all other elements of government, even beyond the United States. They think no one should be able to tell me what to do. Is basically the fundamental principle behind that ideology. Me caveman, me follow caveman law. That's funny. Give it time and Trump will take your birthright citizenship. He is working on that, isn't he? Yeah, could be the case. The Anunnaki did not use the Constitution. When they were harvesting gold from this planet, they told us that no human could tell me what to do. Maybe that's what it stretches back to. Maybe they're like saying, hey, look, the real law is the law of the alien gods. You know, maybe Whitley Strieber is their actual cult leader. Oh yeah, Bean Party says there is a near 0% chance most of these folks have thought through it that deeply. That's exactly right. And the thing is that you have two paths that you can go down when you open the book of understanding the law, right? You can either do the hard work that it takes to wrap your head around these concepts because they're very difficult to understand. They take a long time to really sink in, and it takes a lot of work to understand the depth of how the law actually works. You can go that path and put in the time and effort that it takes, or you can do the much easier thing and just believe whatever the fuck you want to believe and not have to do the hard work and not have to worry about it and just understand bullshit principles that mean nothing and live in ignorant bliss. Direct D, you're right. It says it took me years to even start to understand it. It's not a path that's easily taken. And that's why this whole sovereign citizen ideology continues to exist, is because there are lazy people out there who want to think that they're smart and that they've found this secret to sidestepping the system, but really they just don't want to do the hard work that it takes to actually understand the system. And that's how we get to where we are now. And yes, you're right, Bean Party. They are basically like cops. And you know, what's funny is if you just pay attention to the body language, the mannerisms and behavior that is on display by the people who consider themselves sovereign citizens, it's very reminiscent of how police officers act when they're given all this authority to do things. So yeah, that's a fair comparison to make, I would say. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to wrap it up. I haven't ate dinner. Didn't get to do it in time before the stream started, so I need to go catch myself a meal. I appreciate you guys being here. This was another, again, really great stream. I'm glad, you know, I'll say this before I go. I had my reservations about covering that dog encounter, the first thing that we covered today, because it's so easy to get drafted into the anti-police thought, you know, pattern when you have such an emotionally charged interaction. And I have to say, I'm very honored and thankful to have an audience that has the critical thinking ability to be able to see through that and come to an objective conclusion on those types of interactions. So thank you all for being the audience that you are. I appreciate this, and this is exactly the kind of people that I want to be sharing this space with and want to be talking to and interacting with. So I love you guys for that. And I can't thank you enough for being here and being a part of this and making this stream what it is. You guys are great. If you could leave a like, I would sincerely appreciate it. That's going to be it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. Again, the stream schedule, 5 to 8, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Central Time. And I can't wait to have more conversations like this with you guys. And I just sincerely appreciate y'all. And we'll see you in the next one.